about?
I was really doing guerrilla theater. My whole thing was, you know, getting everybody.
What's this going on? All I can see is David
Not a lot of
shining.
mimes were working. There are not a lot of mimes working to do mime. And actually, mime
Nola Ray.
is very, very.
It's the 100th episode, and it's with 13 other well-known street performers.
Oh, this is the countdown.
I can also say it's a very unpopular art when you see bad mime.
Nola Ray, that was a great interview.
It's not like musicians or singers or actors. Oh God, what an actor! I'm never going to see it play again. Oh, this music is horrible. I won't go to a concert again. No, but a mime, if you see a really bad mime, you're inclined to do that, never to want to see a mime again.
You say mime's
so
terrible.
It's a very fragile art.
When you talk about Aboriginal land rights in a major theater during a showcase. So that's what happened. I built the show. It cost me like $100,000 I produced $100,000 in federal, state, city money. I had sponsors. People were behind this idea. And, you know, I'm the guy who approves a script kind of thing. And I go, well, you know, that was written and that's what we're going to say, because that's what everybody's saying, that if we don't address the Aboriginal issues, the elephant in the room, which is the Aboriginal issues upon which this country was founded.
Kind of a cop out.
Yeah, we've got to talk about it. It's got to be talked about. And it made me persona non grata.
I did Gaulier at the same time as Gaulier was teaching with this magnificent woman called Monica Pagnot. Now, there's many people probably haven't heard of Monica Pagnot. She was the movement teacher and he was the theatre clown teacher. She was soft, lovely, supportive, just a beautiful human being. And I've heard from somebody else that I know, she's still alive and she's still this beautiful, wonderful human being. And she taught us movement and everything else. So I was about 4 or 5 days into this course and I went and saw her and I said, it's not working. I don't know what to do. And I don't know what magic she worked, but she talked to me for about half an hour and she's saying, the thing that she said was, go out there and try and be bad.
It's just so rich and creative because everybody's different. I mean, you're working with so many different people. Housewives, bankers, guys out of work, people out of work, drug addicts, Hell's Angels. I mean, everybody was hanging out there. So it gave me the opportunity to really learn how to work with all kinds of different people.
It was because in the old days when I was doing sketches, I thought I would like to be satirical and put the knife in people, particularly men, because there was a lot of role models to choose from. Where there, in those days, not so many women. And in mime, when you're doing the stories without words, you have to go for the cliche. I mean, I do a sketch about a conductor where the actual music, the story of the music overtakes the conducting. But if I come on as a female conductor, it wouldn't work.
The battle we were having as performers, I believe that we needed to accelerate what we were delivering on the streets because attention spans were being shortened by film and video. And so when they came to the streets, what if they were to see something that, was cutting and switching and flipping dramatically from one extreme to the other? And so I came up with this whole series of routines that involved some magic tricks and some choreography and some juggling, but mostly it became about interacting with the public.
The reason he didn't like mimes, and he never actually expressed it, but I worked it out in the end, is because they use technique, and the technique can hide who they are. So what he taught us was to be vulnerable and to find those bits in us, our humanity, our sadness, our shyness, and be able to express that on stage.
And of course, because of mine doesn't speak, I feel able to.
Is this it?
Is this it? Yeah, Dave, this is my thing of day.
Oh my God.
You're on.
Yes, I gathered. I thought I was supposed to be saying something before everybody turned up. Everybody's turned up suddenly and blown me away, really. it's the 100th episode of Whining On. Matt can't be with us tonight because he's been ill the last few days. I must say he's done a magnificent job. I think Whining On is brilliant, and I've listened to some amazing stories from some amazing performers, and I'm looking at 3 amazing performers in front of me right now. Nicholas, Dave Southern, and I'm guessing one of the Flying Dutchmen. Right. No, it's not. Oh, fucking hell, because your hair's all normal.
Get up that unicycle.
Your hair's normal, and you're supposed to be all crazy, and that's how I've only known Chris when his hair's crazy.
Character thing, right?
You do look like Mikhail.
Yeah. His hair's normal. It's not normal usually. That's really thrown me. I've got to say a little bit. Nick, I've known for a long time, and he used to be known as the kind of, I think, now someone's trying to bloody phone me.
You haven't turned your phone.
Artful Dodger.
The bells.
Yes, the bells. And, you know, he was at Covent Garden at a really young age, and just, Jesus Christ, he developed great acts, loads of different acts. And if anybody had seen him do his straitjacket act, they would have been blown away. It really amazing, and his magic's really amazing. And now he's the lord of cruise ships, basically. Shut up. Dave Southern.
He's still here. What can you say?
He's still here, and he's still going. And he's with a drumming puppet these days, but he used to be part of some legendary street performing acts. I think The Florist, if I remember rightly. And that was a massive act, really successful. And the last person, Chris, who I got wrong, that I've never actually met, but I've watched perform loads of times. And he was one of those acts, along with Django Edwards, that I would sit there and go, fucking hell, they are so good. How am I going to ever perform in comparison to them? So, yes. So we might as well kind of start. And I was thinking it might be nice with this first group. Maybe we can talk a little bit about the early days, 1980s, what it was like to be a performer then, because performing now it's the same, but there was a different atmosphere and different sorts of acts and a much different energy.
I'd rather talk about what's happening now, because I think it's really tragic the way England, well, the whole world really is getting more fascistic about street performing, and what's happening here in London is just awful. And it's like the carpet's been whipped away from under our feet. But I suppose nostalgia is a thing of street performers. I wasn't at good old days and everything, but man, the stuff that they've just passed on the streets here, I don't know where you are, but man, what's happening in London is pretty shocking, actually.
Yeah, I'm at the heart of it all. One of the reps at Covent Garden.
Okay. Well,
so I know what's going on, but
all right. Well, let's go back to the good old days then.
Yeah. Nick won't really know about that too much because he's New Zealand, I believe.
No, I'm in Melbourne in Australia. Why does everyone think I'm in New Zealand?
That's Matt told me you were in New Zealand.
He said, "Yeah, well,
he's on drugs and just come out of a coma or something, isn't he?" So,
yeah, he's got.
I have a theory. Just going back to what Chris was saying about what's happening now. I think it's discussion as well, and I was thinking about this the other day. If all the street performers in London just went out and played, whether that was the Muso on the tram, on the tube to the Juggler in Covent Garden, Leicester Square, if everyone just kept going out, there's not enough cops to stop us.
The difficulty is getting the unity and the organisation for everybody to do that, because one of the great things about street performing is that everybody's an individual and they want to not be organised and do their own thing. So it's like trying to herd.
It's like trying to get 4 people on a screen at once, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, because the early days of Covent Garden, which is, I mean, there were a few sort of street performing pictures before Covent Garden opened up. And there was only about 3 or 4 years, I think. I could be corrected, but where it was just run by us. You showed up, put your name down, did a show, and it worked the best ever. As soon as alternative arts came in with their kind of, okay, this is how we're going to do it, guys. It all started going downhill, and it's been shit ever since, really. Except it has worked because people like yourself getting involved in fighting it, and quite a few people have. And I thought that last big fight that I heard about, it was I don't know, 4 or 5, maybe 10 years ago, where the Covent Garden lot tried to throw us out. I say us, I haven't played the street properly for years, but try to stop it and take it over. And it was part of a bylaw that they couldn't and everything. So, and I think that should be what's happened. What should be happening still is that they can't actually. There's a few rules that you could probably get people done by, like amplified sound and everything, which in certain situations I'm in favour of. Where you blasting sound out and it makes it awful. But God, we never had that. There wasn't much amplification in the early days. No.
And the streets aren't any noisier.
No. In fact, with the greater pedestrianisation, and particularly in London with the emission zone, where there aren't so many vehicles so close to the pitch. I mean, I remember. I'm interested, Chris. Did you work before alternative arts? Then were you working in the garden?
I was the first person to ever play Covent Garden out of the modern people. I started it. I went there when it was a building site.
Fantastic.
But that's when you were a builder, wasn't it?
No.
So, because I've seen pictures.
I was the 15-year-old kid I discovered that when Chris was there in the early days, and just probably about 6 months after you started as a builder, Chris. When building crowds, crowd building. But it was amazing for me as a 14, 15-year-old boy.
It was good times,
I got there. I first worked there in '83, which was the alternative arts was there, and I still remember it. I still don't remember it being that restrictive. There were still loads of people doing amazing things.
Yeah, no, it was more creative, I think, in those early days. There were people. Street performing's on the whole become pretty formulaic.
But yeah, I don't think we had a formula then.
No, there is now.
It's funny. I credit you, Nick. You were the person that taught me that if because I used to ride the unicycle and I'd get down and do fire eating, and you said, why don't you do the fire on the unicycle, because more people will see you and you make more money? And it was like, shit, I'd never thought of that.
See, I was the one. And I never did fire on a unicycle.
No.
Didn't you?
No.
I
think you were doing the hand chopper.
I could never ride the bloody thing. I did the head chopper. Remember?
You didn't need to, though.
You must have done the unicycle at some time, even in privately. You could do everything.
Never done the unicycle.
Oh.
No, never done it. I wouldn't do it. I like 2 wheels.
I don't think I've ever seen you on a bicycle, actually.
No, I like 4 wheels.
Like 4 wheels.
Someone eating crisps under the table.
Well, I like the freedom. I think we'll all agree. Back in those days, why we did it. I know why. When I discovered it, was the freedom of going. I can do something I love. I can put the hat out and I can make money. I remember I was 15 years old and I went, well, that's it. Game over. Society can go and fuck itself, right? I can just go and have a laugh, hang out with all these funny people and make money. And it was the freedom.
Yeah.
Let's take the streets back, Nick.
But that's what it was for me anyway. You know, it was like we could have a laugh and you could just, and I'd learn from all you guys, from you, Chris, from all the older guys. I'd watch and just, I was like running away to the circus, but running away to the street. And it was, I can make some money and I can have a laugh.
All right. I think I'm supposed to, am I supposed to go? Someone's got to go. It's 10,
I don't know. Mike will do that.
okay.
Oh, hang on. So,
I think Nick's going first, actually.
Am I going?
I think you've got to take your daughter to school, haven't you?
I've got to now cook pancakes and take my kid to school because she's got guitar lessons at 7:30 in the morning or 7 o'clock in the morning or something.
Fantastic.
Great to see you. And yeah, take the streets back. Let's just, you know, I don't know. Melbourne's pretty fucked as well. The people are soulless at the moment in Melbourne.
Yeah.
They've been locked up for They've been locked up for 8 months and watching Netflix. I've been out on the streets and it's weird.
Wow.
I thought it was quite free in Australia.
Yeah, but the audiences have been. Melbourne was locked up for 8 months. So the audiences haven't experienced live entertainment. They're scared to be around other people. The reactions are weird. It's strange.
Wow.
Hopefully it will change. Yeah.
I must come and have a chat to you soon, Nick, because I'm coming back. I want to come back to Oz next year. So yeah.
You ever do the street still, Nick?
As I just said, Dave, I just been doing it at Easter, and Easter's normally the best. Easter's normally really good, right? The people are like, there's no wows and claps and hoorays because they've been locked up for 8 months.
Yeah,
it's like their soul's been taken out and stamped on. It's just, and I've been discussing it with my friends, and it's very strange out there at the moment.
All right.
Tourists
for everyone, not just because you're shit.
Well, I've learned from you, Chris. I learned everything from you, of course. So maybe you're right. Yeah, obviously you're right. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, man.
Actually, I've got a little reminisce. I was at Covent Garden watching Chris do his show, and the rocket or whatever it's called backfired.
Oh my God! There was only 10 people saw that show
outside the Rock Garden. I was there.
Yeah.
And he had to
I was
sit in
there.
a bucket of warm water.
Shit.
You ran past us all, Chris, and you with your ass blown up, going, "Hat the fuckers! I've got to get ice." I never outside the Rock Garden.
I think there was only 6 audience, and you a bunch of you lot.
But you were going, "Hat them! I've got to go and get some ice."
It was one of the funniest things because I got into hobbled across the bridge to St Thomas's, and you have to go there and register, and you go, "What's wrong?"
The hospital.
Yeah, I've had an accident with a firework. It blew up in my arm. Okay, what's your name? Oh, sit down over there. I think I'll just stand. And then she goes to the first little cubicle to tell her, there's this bloke out there who's got a huge laugh. Goes to the next cubicle, and it just went round. She went round to like 14 cubicles, telling everyone who was waiting next, and there was a big roar of laughter from each freaking one.
While you were in St Thomas's, we were spending the money we collected in the hat.
Oh God! 3 times that's happened, man. You'd think I'd learn. Anyway.
Well, it was kind of a crazy day, that one.
So what happens now on this
on this
chat? Do I go? Or someone go? Not that I want to go.
Because I'm not in contact with Mike, so he can hear what's going on.
Oh, okay.
And well, we might as well just keep chatting while that's going on.
Oh, do you know what? I think we can carry on because I think Susie might not be around, and there's somebody else I've been watching can't. People can't get in and stuff. It's usual bloody chaos.
And someone got to get out anyway. But I was inspired by likes of you, Chris, and Sid Rasputin. He's coming on later. John McKenna. That was a great act.
Yeah.
And
who else brings Shakespeare onto the street?
Shakespeare. What about Shakespeare? You lick George Daniel Allen.
J. Arthur. What happened to
J. Arthur Rank.
Yeah.
Yeah. Never sang anyone else's song. The musician who never sang anyone else's songs, right? Always did his own material.
Called? Didn't he have a dog?
His dog was called Rover, wasn't it? Or what's it? Yeah, he used to say to his dog, "Fuck the wife," and he pointed to a blanket, and the dog would start fucking whatever he pointed to. So he could look at someone's leg and go, "Fuck the wife," and the dog would start fucking someone's leg, or "Fuck the wife," and he'd start fucking a chair.
There was an opera
do you remember that? That was a great bit.
Wasn't there an opera singer in the early days?
Yeah.
Sandra. It was Sandra, wasn't it?
She was great.
Yeah.
That's it. Just singing opera. Brilliant.
She'd sit on a milk crate, wouldn't she, Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah. American woman.
Matt McDonald. I love that. Human Jukebox.
Human Jukebox.
Yeah.
What did he do, the Human Jukebox?
Oh, he had a list of songs written on the outside of the jukebox, and he'd be inside a box. He'd be behind it. It was on a stool thing. It got a big box, like that. And someone would come up and press something on the thing, on the box, and put a coin in, and then he'd flap open the box and sing the song.
There's a cardboard cut box, wasn't it? He made out of it. Yeah.
So he'd open the cardboard flap of it and sing the song that someone had chosen. That was brilliant.
Popticians. Don Hegley and the Popticians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
God, reminiscing.
We are.
He became the resident poet all over the place, didn't he?
Yeah.
John Hegley's still doing it. Yeah. And Snackenberger. They were early boys. J.J. Waller.
Yeah.
Because Puka Snackenberg became.
It was a great place. It was great then. The variety was amazing. And as I said, as a kid, seeing all that, I think we all learned from each other.
So you've never ever done a proper job, Nick?
No.
Where you are now?
No job.
The boats are a bit like that, aren't they?
No, there's no boats anymore. Boats are gone.
Really?
But it's. Yeah. I mean, when I was. Yeah, well, if there's one out there at the moment, Steve Rawlins is on it, and
that's
that's the only one, and you're doing a show to a 1,000-seat theatre with 200 people in it, all masked up. So I don't think I'm going back to the boats. But it's. I mean, that's a proper job, but it's still doing shows, isn't it? I mean, it's like. I mean, I've never done a job.
No, I mean, I do one of those shows.
Have you done a job? Have you ever done a job, Chris?
Loads.
Normal jobs.
I only started this when I was 20.
Well, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
This rumor about you, Nick, that you used to come to the drawer in Covent Garden in a suit because you hadn't told your mum you left your office job when you were 16.
Yeah, I had a job. I had a job in an. Here's a story. I had a job in an office because my mum said you got to get it. So I thought I'll get a job. So I thought I'd get a job. So I got this job in an office. It's I don't know, somewhere in London. And I wear a suit, and in the weekends and after work, I'd go down to Covent Garden and do shows. But then I got fired from the job because I was shit and couldn't give a fuck. And and I remember going into the after 6 weeks or something, I went into the office of the boss of the job. It was for Dewhurst Butchers in an office, some office. I don't even know what I was doing. And the guy said, we just have to say now, you've been falling asleep at your desk. You haven't been turning up on time. You're not doing your work. We're going to have to dismiss you, to which I'm pretty happy about because then I've got an excuse, And then, so it's all for my mum. I did the job thing for my mum. And then he said, I'll never forget it. He said to me, so you've got two choices now. You can work the rest of the day or you can leave now. And I said, what do you think? I'm fucking stupid. And so I left. And then I didn't have the heart to tell my mum, right? The single, parent. I just didn't have the heart. So I got up in the morning, put on a suit, go into centre of London, then get changed into whatever clown or what a normal gear and do shows, put on a suit and go home. And then, but you know, when you've got a lie, when you do a lie and it keeps going and you can't get out of your own lie. So after about 5 days, I couldn't get out of the lie, right? So one day after about 2 weeks, I came home and my mum goes, "Well, how was work today, Nicholas?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, it was fine. Why didn't you tell me you'd been fired?" I went, "Oh, how do you know?" And at that time I was doing kids' parties and stuff. And someone had phoned up my house, my mum's house, said, "Can you do a party tonight or tomorrow, whatever?" And my mum said, "Oh, hang on, I don't know whether he's available. I'll phone him at the office." So she phoned the office. They said to her that I'd been fired. She didn't know, of course. and then so I came home and she found that out. And then she went, "Oh, by the way, you've got a gig to do tomorrow at Bob's birthday party." And that was the only job I've had. That was the job.
Brilliant.
It lasted about 6 weeks, but yeah, and then that was it. Yeah. So I was scamming my mum, pretending I was having a real job. Yeah.
Excellent.
That's the story. There you go.
Well done.
Good
Well
story.
done, Nick.
Shall I go now? Because I've got to make breakfast for
Yeah.
my daughter.
Nice to see you, buddy. I'll be in touch.
Lovely to see you, Nick.
Bye.
Yes, rock on. Oh, hello, Susie. How are you?
Hello. Hi.
Hey, so
How are you guys?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm actually improvising because I thought that I'd missed the whole chat at 8 a.m. this morning. I got confused.
I've left you about 10 messages. I've had your sister chasing you.
I know. I just got a knock on the door with Alan and a scratch on the arm by my cat.
When
So
would Matt,
I'm here now.
when would Matt Bowden organise something at 8 in the morning? I mean, really?
Well, this is what I was thinking. It sounded like it was unreal. So I just want to say happy celebration, guys, because it's nice to be back on Whining On.
So I ought to introduce Susie for people who might not know. Susie Oddball, she was around at the beginnings of the kind of new age, new wave circus, and was at the heart of selling juggling equipment, amongst other things, performing with Max, going around mime classes. And I was in a mime class where these two people turned up with a suitcase full of juggling balls that they were about to sell. That was pre them having a shop or shops. And Susie's been juggling and been a clown and all sorts of other things over the years, and worked with me when I was doing corporate comedy waiters, and she did some of the juggling amongst other things in that.
I'm glad you said amongst other things, Melvin.
Going on to the sort of nostalgia bit, it just, with Susie here, be interesting to discuss the atmosphere of what it was like back in 1980, 82, 83. It's when lots of people started juggling, lots of people started doing performing. There was Chris doing all his crazy things. There was Django Edwards around at that time, Nola Ray. There was all sorts of people and all sorts of weird and wacky things. And maybe people can recount a little bit of that.
Well, first of all, hi guys. I remember Chris Lynham
I'm here.
being in the height of it all then as well. And should I tell the story, Chris?
Which one?
Or will I give you a bad reputation?
Me and bad reputation. I think it's been done quite a few times. You go ahead.
Well, I've got an older son who is a lot more older now than he was then. And I think he was about 10 then. And my older son came to Jongleurs with us for a birthday celebration. I think Aileen was there as well, funny enough. And we saw Chris Lynham, who was called by a different name. Am I allowed to say what you were called then?
Yeah, it's on here. Chris the Piss.
Chris the Piss. That's what we used to call him. And it didn't seem like well, he did used to take the mickey out of a lot of people, actually, didn't you? But in a good way, a real clown. And so he was one of my first clown experiences, interactive, because my son went up on stage and was one of his volunteers. And I've never seen someone be so interactive with a kid to a point where you were juggling him and all sorts of things. And he's never forgotten it. And he's one of your #1 fans still.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, you didn't turn him off, but it was quite amazing as a parent to watch you. But that was in Jongleurs.
That's what children are for, throwing around, isn't it? Much
Yeah,
easier
well,
when
we
they're
spent a lot of
small,
time
Susie.
juggling our kids. You were talking about John Hegley. I remember Covent Garden was one spot for street entertaining, but we used to perform at another place, which was Camden Lock, back in the good old days. And I remember doing the very last show at Camden Lock with John Hegley. And it's because we didn't have a lot of time and we joined forces. And in those days, he was called John with the glasses on. Hello, I'm John. I'm John with the glasses on. And do you know what? I met him probably about 5 years ago, performed in the same space. And he still remembers the exact date. I don't.
Wow.
But he remembers the exact date of when we performed. But it was nice to be really interactive. And I think that we helped each other in those days a lot. I'm sure you do now, you guys. I'm sure. It has to be. But if it isn't, sort it out. But anyway, I really, really enjoyed it because I was there wasn't many women performing on the streets. And I remember Rosie Gibbs, Rosie the Clown, encouraging me to do a woman's day at Covent Garden. And I was so scared. But, you know, along with the rest of the women, I did it. But then you couldn't stop me getting off after that. I was in Covent Garden a lot with Max.
I think there were quite a few women, Susie. Obviously not as many as men, but, you know, flaming hamsters, cunning stunts.
Yes. Which I used to always get wrong, being dyslexic.
Yeah, Nickelodeon had, you know, Chrissy was ill.
Yeah, but not many women solo performances. No. I do remember Patricia and a few dancers. Not many women solo jugglers until I met Aileen. I don't remember any more solo female jugglers at the time.
We're strange over the years. There's been times when there's been quite a lot of women performers, and now at Covent Garden, maybe one.
Really?
Yeah. It's.
I mean, Pippa T used to do, and there was an Australian lady called Kim who used to juggle the fans and stuff. But not many other people in Covent Garden.
No,
I think it was. Aileen, who talked about the difficulties of being a woman and doing a solo street show and the sorts of problems she had to face.
Yeah. I mean, you have to be very careful with your safety. And also you get heckled a lot. But you guys, I'm sure you got heckled too. But I think the heckles were slightly different for women.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Didn't you get heckled?
No, because I had a gun.
Maybe that was the solution. I didn't have a gun. Trouble is, I would have been a bit of a hypocrite because I banned all my children from having guns.
As soon as you encourage them to stop doing it, I love people with the heckle.
Yeah, heckling. Yeah. For me, heckling is you know, is part of it. You know, it's a lifeline sometimes as well. You know. Yeah. If you're floundering, somebody goes, bing, bong, bang. You go, great, bong, bing, bing. You know, it's.
I think at first,
Chris, I can't imagine anybody heckling you, to be honest.
No, they do. But it's, you know, it adds to it. You know, for me, it's the fuel, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to watch John Lenihan and listen to his reactions to his heckles. He was another one.
Did Mookie ever play Covent Garden? I mean, I haven't really been there for many years, but she's a great street clown as well. You guys know Mookie?
No, I remember people like the Amazing Mendizes and
Blokes.
Ollie and his street gang.
Bloke.
Is it Frankie?
Pardon?
Frankie
Frank
Anderson?
No, Frankie, who is a clown, who is a deaf clown.
Oh, right. No,
He used to do Covent Garden too.
Okay.
no, I meant a female performer, Frankie.
Frankie Anderson.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think maybe early days she was there.
Picture when I was 15.
I don't remember her doing the street performance at Covent Garden, but I could be wrong.
I don't know.
To actually be in Covent Garden and doing a street performance was quite a strange. I mean, over the years, the audience changed a lot. When we first started, the audience were different from later on when we performed at Covent Garden. They were a lot more local when we first started. And there wasn't so many continental people. And Steve Rawlings was there too. He was learning with Rita, his wife at the time. There were some acrobats, magicians, Duncan Trillo.
I wonder if the audiences were easier back in 1980 as against now.
I think it was easier to impress.
Good question.
I definitely used to make a lot of money in that time.
Well, we used to make a living, good living as well. So maybe they were, because later on, when your fees were cut down later on as a performer, you didn't get as great fees as you used to in the early days. So maybe there was a difference in the audience.
Well, 1980 was all new, wasn't it? And not many people had seen lots of juggling other than in circuses. There was suddenly all these people learning juggling skills and all the other skills. There was a whole energy of theatre and people going off to Holland to do clowning, etc.
Did you know we got told off for teaching people to juggle? The traditional circus told us off because they thought it would take away from the circus. And one of the circus owners, the old Mr. Santos, he came back and apologised about 10 years later. And he said, we were wrong because we've now got new audiences that are watching our shows that we never would have had if all of you guys hadn't taught people the skills. And I never did learn foot juggling from a circus. And I wanted to learn that. So it's, it's very, it was a real transition from old circus to new. And, it was quite innovatory, yes.
Absolutely. Chris, were you part of the Fools Road show?
Festival of Fools, yeah. I did it a few times. A Friends Roadshow. I played with them a few times. Not a lot. I was quite good friends with there were two Friends Roadshow companies. The English Friends, there was about 20 people living in a squat in Crystal Palace, and then the Amsterdam-based Friends, and both of them were kind of started by Django, but he wasn't really involved. He came over about once or twice a year to the English Friends, so I played with them. I did one little tour with them to what's that country called? Denmark, on the bus, and I played in Amsterdam at Festival of Fools about 3 or 4 times, 3 or 4 of those. But yeah, they were quite a closed group. It was quite hard to get in to them. They weren't really. I mean, they were lovely people, and they weren't as open. And it was a couple of years later that I came across Greatest Show on Legs, and that was a lot more open. And the whole alternative thing that was kind of smaller in England were a bit more kind of enthusiastic and open and going, hey, yeah, like I was talking about, like Covent Garden at the beginning, where you would you'd be supportive of each other, and there wasn't a kind of battle, you know. The very first gigs that I did were in Portobello Road, and there was no one else, just a couple of people with guitars and what are called the Chain Gang, who were two old blokes about my age now, but this was in like 73 or 4, and they had an escapology act, and they were really dirty, crusty old guys, and they were pissed all the time, and they were like in dirty old underpants and stuff, and they only had like a 10-15 minute tied up in a sack escape thing, and it was really bad, but you know, they'd just knock them off, and in the early days we'd trade, so it was only me and them, so they'd do one, I'd do one, and then a couple of times they'd be really pissed and then go no, and just go straight into the second one before me going. So
that's how we used to do it at Camden Lock as well. But I remember, Chris, that your style of clowning, I mean, people are training to do it now, your style of clowning, but you were so unique in those days with your style. How did you come about doing that style? Was that learnt on the street?
Yeah. Basically, when I started, I just woke up one day and said I want to be a clown, and the only thing available for schooling then was Lecoq School in Paris, which I applied for and got a place, one of 80 places out of 3,000 applicants. But with the acceptance came the demand for the first year's fees, which was like 2,000 francs. And it was a 2-year course, which I spent a month trying to get it. And to tell you the truth, I'm really pleased I didn't get it, because I was determined to play. And at the Oval House, there were some workshops Johnny Melville did, and there was a great girl, what was she called? I had her name. Oh, damn, I've got to remember.
Original Mixture used to go to the Oval House a lot, didn't they?
Yeah, there was a girl who did tumbling workshops as well. So I just did that for like a month.
What did Johnny Melville teach you?
Clown. Oh, what did he teach me? He just did really good workshops, you know, really good game stuff, and yeah.
I never met him. I just heard about him. What was his background?
Scottish. I've got a lot of stories about Johnny. I mean, we don't really get on anymore. It's about a finance thing that happened in Moscow, and long story and boring. But I cackle, because whenever my name gets mentioned in his presence, he goes, "Oh, yeah, I taught him everything he knows." And actually, I did work with his company. He had a group called Selecta Balloon Band. That was it. There was about 5 people in it, and I did 1 season with him and that. And, you know, it was kind of fun writing sketches and doing that stuff. But, I mean, I just cackle at somebody saying that they taught you everything you know, when it's like... Anyway. But his workshops were good. They were kind of proactive and gave you the space to develop your clown, really, with using games and creating sketches and stuff. And it was once a week I probably did about 6 months of it. So I'd already started playing in the street, and that was kind of a little bonus. And then the biggest bonus of all for learning for me was a month-long workshop at the Oval House that's a guy called Steve Whitson organized. And that was a month of 12 hours a day of just the best people around at that time. Lindsay Kemp, Will Spur, Ben Benison, People Show when they were young, and there were Emil Walken.
Was they all in a workshop together with you?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
We were very sport in those days for performers, even though people don't remember that many performers in Covent Garden. There was a lot of arts venues, because there'd been arts labs in the 1960s and 70s.
Yeah, the Fringe Theatre that was going on there was phenomenal. Hidden Grin, Paddy Fletcher's Incubus, Lumen, what are they called? Lumi and Sun. Some really, and coming across Ken Campbell by chance was just, I was so lucky to get involved with that man. I for years used to say that I think every performer should be forced to spend at least 2 weeks with Ken Campbell before they're allowed to go on a stage. Because,
did you do one of these 24-hour shows?
Yeah, I did the first one, The Walk, yeah.
What was that like?
Oh, great. Yeah, I learned to play saxophone. You know, I joined. You know, you could be on stage for 24 hours if you wanted. You know, to pick apart another part. You know, I decided, oh, I'll be in the band. I played a few instruments anyway, but I thought, oh, I'll get a sax, and you know, just learned a few notes, and suddenly I'm in the band with, you know, Margot, great MD in that band, Camilla Saunders. Wow, really fantastic woman. Yeah.
It's really weird because there was that time there seemed to have been a lot of arts things going on, and it doesn't seem to be the same now.
Well, no, because they haven't got the venues like that. You know, I remember Chislehurst Caves, in middle of London. There was like odd places, and they used to all have arts venues. There were, you know, there were the arts labs, they used to call them, and they used to have poetry, performing, music.
People like Ian Hinchcliffe. I mean, you don't see. I mean, what a phenomenal person, Hinchcliffe.
Oh, crazy shows.
Yeah, really, really, much more inventive. And you know, nowadays,
well, I suppose they replaced the variety, didn't they? Really?
Yeah. You know, now
because there was the television then, but these arts labs used to still do a lot of variety, didn't they?
That's it. You see, and people going, oh. Anyway,
I don't know. Why do you think it's changed now? It's just because there's no venues or no?
No, there are venues
support.
There are venues, but you can't get into them unless you've got Arts Council funding. Really, you know, places like Jackson's Lane and well, I think that place in Cheney Street's closed down, hasn't it? What was it called? Little theatre. But I mean, there still are little theatres all up and down the country. I mean, God knows what it's going to be like when things come back. But you know, a lot of the venues were rooms above a pub. You know, what were they called? Roland Muldoon's and Roland and Claire's had a thing, New Variety.
They had the New Variety of the Year at Hackney Empire.
Yeah, but it
wasn't just Hackney Empire. They used to have. I remember doing a New Variety circuit in the south of London. Brixton pubs all over that area of South London with a group of other variety artists, and that's what they used to do. And then you used to move around to North London and you know, so on.
Anyway,
I think that it's a question of there doesn't seem to be money for the small person, the new people coming in, and also the faith that some people had in you. You know, if you wanted to do something, people used to listen to what you wanted to do and give you a chance, an opportunity. And I don't think I don't think you get so much opportunity now.
Well, and that was it. We used to take the opportunity, you know. A lot of places
as street entertainers.
And you can't kind of do that anymore. Well, I haven't got the energy to push like that anymore.
I wonder if it's also because of social media. A lot of young people are doing YouTube videos, TikTok videos, all the rest of it, and sitting in their rooms being creative, but not coming outside and being creative and not.
See, I'm not so sure, because if you take the Brighton Festival, the Fringe Festival, it's absolutely chock-a-block packed, and I'm sure there's lots of other Fringe festivals that were also packed. So I don't think it was down to social media. I think it's encouragement as well. I think, you know, we need to educate everyone to say, look, this is a really good thing to do.
Yeah,
and make it positive.
Andre Vincent's just reminded that was cast, Roland and Claire's thing. Well done, Andre, you clever little bugger. Hello, Frodo. I think that means I'm out of here.
Oh yeah, nice one.
Are you in cold northern climate?
I am in Norway. I'm in Norway, but the spring is coming here, so that's very good. It's very lovely, actually.
Welcome to the universe.
Oh, it's so nice to be here. So nice to be here, wherever this is.
To get out.
Good to see you, even if it's briefly there, Chris.
I'm supposed to go.
I don't know.
I'm going to be going. I'll go, Chris, if you want to just stay and talk for a little while longer.
I think you're supposed to be staying in for the moment. I ought to introduce Frodo.
Oh, yeah.
Who I've never met. I've just heard some of your interview with Matt, and
Yeah.
you're a kind of a famed performer for tennis rackets and loads of tennis rackets and escaping from tennis rackets and doing crazy shows in Las Vegas, and also doing a podcast about being a showman, I believe.
That's right. The podcast is called The Way of the Showman. It's sort of personal and philosophical musings on what it's like to be a showman. I'm very into philosophy and also a bit of occult kind of history. So I'm fusing all this together in mixing it with just stories from the road in this podcast. And currently I'm not in Vegas. I do have a poster here on the wall from Vegas, but Vegas shut down and I had to evacuate and go to a little bit of a more safe place. So I'm in Norway, living in my dad, who's living in his basement. I'm not living in my dad. I'm living in my dad's basement. So staying here with my wife and my daughter, and having it's good, but it's pretty weird, which I'm sure you guys have probably already touched on. It's a very strange situation for all of us, I guess.
Absolutely. You know, it'd be nice if you chatted a little bit about your philosophy of showmanship, and then.
Oh yeah,
that's interesting for me anyway.
Yeah, no. So basically, I was writing on Carnival Cinema. They have a blog. Carnival Cinema is like an Australian institution. Excellent guy, Hamish McCormick, who makes films and stuff. We kind of started that together about 2 decades ago. I was writing a blog on his, writing a monthly blog on his, or posting on his thing. Anyway, then the pandemic hit, and he took a break from all of the blogging and all of the digital stuff to just chill out. And I decided to turn my blog posts, the last 2 years worth of blog posts, into a podcast, a medium that interests me. And as I was going on with that, had always felt that these things that I write are of interest, possibly only to myself. But as I was starting to publishing it, with me speaking the ideas and commenting on what I had written and chatting a little bit about my life as it was unraveling and I was trying to find my feet again, I got an exceptionally strong and emotional response through social media and through people that I talk to. So that really lit a fire in my belly about actually writing out, not just having these random thoughts, which sort of would last anything from half an hour to 40 minutes or so. But then I would start to do this at the end of the season, last season that finished a few months ago. I started to write longer ideas that would take several episodes to bring out.
If you could maybe chat a little bit about what your philosophy is, because you know, Chris is actually an amazing showman. I really did go and see quite a few Chris's shows because it's just amazing. I love them.
I love them too.
And I'd love to hear a bit about your philosophy rather than what is it? What do you say about how do you encapsulate what it is that's a showman?
Well, it starts out. I'm trying to make everything really easy. So I start out, and the point that I was going to say is that this season that is coming up now, it'll be 30 episodes long. I've written a book that's about 400 pages. It's about 140,000 words long, one long essay. So I have just lived as a showman all my life, growing up as a son of a magician. And I have then tried to put things in order of the things that I've thought about, because we think so many things along the way. And I've just tried to organize it. So I start out by just trying to break down what a showman is. And my kind of starting point on that is that a showman is somebody who faces the other way, somebody who has turned around to face the others. Because we're all walking along the way. All people in the world are all walking along getting on with our lives. But some of us decide to turn around and face the others, call for attention, and we have created something to show. When they turn around, we have something to show. So we're not only getting their attention, we are keeping their attention. And the kind of obligation that we have is that with that attention, we got to refine it so that at the end of that thing, they feel like this was a beneficial transaction, that we have left them better off for having met us than not. And that's when then they can put some money in our hat or whatever. So I use the kind of street show as this archetypal experience of what the world looks like from the point of view of a performer. So I start with that as one of my I have several starting points that will come out in the first couple of episodes, which will start in the beginning of June. So it goes through the process of creating material, and it's so big, and I'm so in the middle of it all. I've just started to record the episodes, so I sort of nested out from these couple of little starting points like that one. It starts out simple, and then as it adds on, it grows and become more meaningful. And that's one of the keys here. I see that Al is making a how to become a street performer thing. A lot of the Zoom things that are going on is like how to be a more effective performer, how to do a better show. And to me, this last year of not doing shows has been much more about trying to go, I want to express something more meaningful than just I can squeeze through 2 rackets. And these longer essays that where I just talk about my influences in a more kind of philosophical way, and just to express this idea that we want to express something more meaningful. And what does that even mean? That's kind of my big challenge here. I can't quite summarize it up in a short bit, so I recommend everyone just getting along. I'm going to do this 30-hour thing, going to come out bi-weekly. So over the next year and a bit, I'll be reading out my book aloud. I wrote the book to sort of try to monetize it, and then
Is the book in English?
Yeah, the book is in English. Yeah, it's called The Way of the Showman. It's kind of it's a cult.
Can we buy it?
No, because
I would like to buy it and read it.
Yeah. Well, that will also happen. That was my kind of goal. My business advisor or whatever is like going, yeah, you got to take this book, write it as a book, sell it, and then you just keep doing the podcast like it used to be. But I go, these are the ideas that I am burning to tell everybody about, and I'm spending all my mornings getting up before driving my daughter to school and writing it out. So now I'm going to publish it, me speaking it to the people, and meanwhile I'll be rewriting the book. But I'm basically reading it as it is at the moment.
Oh, great. And is it going to be recorded, Frodo?
Yeah, it's a podcast. So
okay.
if you go to anywhere where you get your podcast, on iTunes or Stitcher or on wherever, and anywhere where you can get a podcast.
I look forward to that.
And there's already 22 episodes out up there
really?
from the previous season.
Yeah.
But my new season that starts in June. So there's currently a gap in there. I'm not doing podcasts at the moment. I did one episode in March, and then it starts back up again. So it's like season 1 is done. Season finale, I would recommend to start with that possibly. That's
season
it.
1. Yeah. I mean, I'm so old, I don't even know how to listen to a podcast. So I'll get my kids to teach me how to do that, and I'll go and.
Oh yeah.
But
I think we've got a new person in, and I'm hoping I've never met you. It's Kate. Please tell me it's Kate.
It is.
Yay.
Thank God. I better introduce Kate. I've never met Kate, but I think I've seen you talking a little bit. Kate, if I'm right, did a kind of walk by street show, then did a circle act, then started designing clothes, then developed her own brand. This is a ridiculously long list. That now is a DJ and selling and with a brand of clothing as well, etc. It's the woman for all seasons, I believe.
You're too kind.
And a nice, interesting looking drink, Kate. What you got?
It's Empress Gin.
Well done.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere in the world.
So what do I just have to, Chris? Sorry to interrupt your introduction, but
Chris, apparently you are still on for a few more minutes because we had some technical issues. So you can continue to pontificate or do whatever it is that you do.
I do listening now that you're on. You and Frodo, you know, I've been talking shit for an hour or something.
Fair enough.
We were chatting too, whilst you guys were chatting here. Kate and me and Silver were in the green room, not knowing how to get into where you guys were.
I think the green room was like a good idea in theory, and then in reality, it was like, where the fuck are we?
Okay, well, I'll stay here until someone gets the hook on me.
Big hook will come.
The digital hook.
Kate, how do you know? We were talking about being a showman or a showwoman or a show person or some other description. How would that apply with you?
You know, it's really interesting. I was actually having a conversation about a similar adjacent kind of topic with Dado the other day. We were talking about like, you know, like what's the difference between, you know, an artist, a performer, and an entertainer, you know, and like, I guess showmanship is kind of the through line that all good artists, performers, and entertainers should express. I mean, to me, the showman is a very selfish, self-absorbed kind of perspective where it's like, it's all about me making sure that, you know, I'm expressing myself succinctly, I'm engaging, I'm, you know, charismatic, you know, but I don't really think so much about being a showman, more in service of my audience and what I can do, you know, to make my audience happy.
Yeah, that's
I don't know
very
if that
good.
answered your question.
No, that's good.
Isn't that's very different from when you were doing street shows to now when you're doing a DJ? Because when you're doing street shows, you've got very direct contact with the audience.
I still do as a DJ online.
Oh, okay.
I still do. I engage directly with my chat. I address people by their names. As if a tip comes up on, you know, on the screen, I make sure I thank that person directly. I take a break every 15-20 minutes to actually tally up and express my gratitude for each individual. You know, when I'm doing my vinyl listening party show, I'm constantly looking at the chat for feedback from people, you know, who have things to offer or, you know, things to say when I'm talking about an album or the history of the album or whatever. So I'm constantly fielding questions with them as well. I just treat them like an extension of a street show. It just happens to be online now because that's the climate.
How do you find that? Because I'm not a great fan of things online because I'm not next to the people. I'm at a distance. I'm in the screen.
It's kind of like the divide at the turn of the last century between the variety performers on stage and the performers that moved over to silent film. I mean, we all fucking love and adore and respect Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton, and they were variety artists who managed to move over. It's a different language, right? Like film, television, internet, it's all through a lens. So it's a different language. And if you can kind of learn the language and learn to manipulate the language, it's just a broader palette to work with as a performing artist.
Chris, Frodo, how do you think about that? You comfortable with the online or not?
Yeah, I mean, it's not. I can do it. You know, if you're a performer, you can. You know, if you're a busker, that's what it is. You just, you know, rise to meet whatever situation you find yourself in. You know, I like touching and smelling people. You know, especially for my style of work is very interactive. You know, and so much happens, and I haven't done a lot of Zoom stuff, but I haven't found a way where the immediacy of touch and smell, I haven't found a way of replacing that, you know. So all the Zoom gigs I do, I just sort of barge through it, you know. I don't talk to them in the same way as I would, and you can't hear the heckles or you can't hear the comments or whatever it is. So
I don't know about you, but I do in Twitch. I get the hecklers coming in.
Really?
I actually had to do a workshop with DJs because, bless them, none of the DJs have ever had performing experience before, and they were all like sitting ducks. Especially, goth DJs that are all done up and look all, they've got their very, very distinctive looks about them.
Yeah.
So they were sitting ducks for hecklers, and there was a group community chat about, how do we fucking deal with this? And I'm like, oh, hold my beer, guys, I got this. And I organized a group discussion to give them some techniques on how to actually handle the hecklers. But I think it all depends on the platform you're using. Like Zoom is a closed platform. So I'm assuming when you're doing Zoom shows, you're not actually performing to the general public. You're performing for a closed audience.
Yeah.
Whereas on Twitch, I'm basically on a street corner. I'm basically smack dab in the middle of Covent Garden or Yonge and Dundas Square or fucking Darling Harbor, wherever, the big pitch is. It's like we are literally on this big internet platform that anybody can walk into at any time.
Okay.
And anybody can kind of, come in, say some shit, and then leave.
How do people know about it? How do they find you on Twitch?
So
where do they come from, all these people?
Well, I mean, a lot of them are people who are seeking out specifically. I'm at work. I want to listen to cool music when I'm at work. What's the style of music I'm into? So when I go live, I make sure that in my title sequence it says, I'm hitting all the points of the styles of music I play. I make sure I put in 80s goth rock, dark wave, vapor wave, synth wave, industrial music, or whatever. So people who are looking for that stuff will see my channel and then decide to come in or decide not to come in. They'll see little clips of it live as it's happening. And if they're engaged, they'll be like, oh, that looks cool. I'll check that out.
Okay. So is it mainly a music platform?
No, it's actually a gaming platform.
Oh, really?
So it started in 2014 as a gaming platform. And since the pandemic, it's just exploded with music. I treat it like it's a cable access television network. So the shows that I do are very interactive, and I have a green screen with visuals happening that I interact with, and I do stupid shit like ride a roller coaster or whatever, stuff like that. But I treat it like it's like cable access TV, and I know nobody's going to come into a cable access TV channel of somebody they don't know. So if I present it to them in a way where they're like already seeking out something like music, I have a greater chance of getting a bigger audience.
Sure. I'd like to see some of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But how do you find you?
Pardon me?
How do I find you on Twitch?
Oh, it's just twitch.tv/hatemeor. I'll give you the link after. Twitch.tv/hatemeor.
Oh, HATE. No.
Yep, MIOR like Dior.
All right.
So, Frodo, how do you like performing online or not? I don't know.
Yeah, I've done a little bit, but actually here just before Christmas, I got hooked up with some corporate gig, and the first corporate gig that I did, it was for this power company thing, and they had something where they didn't want to let me in onto their actual network thing. So I recorded a video. As I said, I started recording videos with Carnival Cinema. So my wife filming, I made a half-hour specifically made show where I filmed acts and I used the surroundings here. I did my can stack balance act on top of this the 10-meter tall diving platform. So the stunt got a sort of different feel to it. So, and then when I had done that, then some people saw that, and that got me 2 more gigs in the same vein. So I reused and shot new footage and stuff. So they had sort of pre-programmed stuff. So I did. It was a really kind of odd thing to just like making short video clips that they then used on their on their platform, and then So I've only really done a couple of live things, and then it's just been my experience has been a little bit like Chris's experience, where I feel like I'm just chucked in a running order, and you just come on and can't quite work out what's going on, so you're just doing my material. I haven't had the experience that Kate has had, which sort of feel like you've mastered the platform, where you're fielding heckling and feeling like you're involved. But I really like your ideas, or like what you're sort of describing, that once you crack through that and actually learn to use the platform, it's a whole new arena. Because I think
I mean, I can recommend some really awesome film theory books to help you understand how the language, how you can manipulate the language, like using camera angles or using like certain punching into things or editing techniques that are very simple that you can do simply.
Yeah.
That can really just help elevate what you're doing and narrow, focus on specific things.
Yeah. Okay,
Right, I better introduce the latest person, Rex Boyd. I first saw him, he came to London, and there was a whole bunch of Americans came to London. Rex was one, Paul Morocco was another, William, I don't know his last
name. William Lee.
Yeah. And there was an amazing professionalism about these people who came, and it really affected the performers who were normally in London, and I think changed some of the ways they thought about how they did their shows. And Rex, I mean, it's really interesting because you started off with a juggler, and then you moved on to doing a kind of an interactive drama show, and then conquered cabaret and comedy, and it's pretty damn impressive that move from being a juggler to someone who was just doing a Robin Hood show, and now a tango dancer. What more can I say?
Well, there you go. So I try to keep busy. I was enjoying, Kate, you and Frodo were talking about all these things and online and videos and stuff. And I have to say, you were making me think about the days when I was like 14 years old, 15 years old, playing with cassette recorders and trying to do my own shows in my bedroom. And then moving into high school when we had like cable access TV shows and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And back in those days, I was so excited about it. Yet somehow here it is, we've got the internet, we've got the ability to do this. You're giving me a little yearning to go, hang on. I used to have a fire and interest in doing this kind of stuff. Maybe it'll come back. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe, Kate, you should set up a course for performers.
Yeah.
Because I'm going, this sounds more interesting than I thought. I'm just used to Zoom, and I'm
gonna tell you right now, if I set up a course, I am not charging anybody anything. Okay.
Cool.
I'm not going to charge you $1,000 US to teach you the secrets of how to stream online. I'm happy to talk to anybody individually about it, honestly.
Well,
sounds really interesting, because I personally, I was doing a little bit of teaching, and I found it so difficult because I love to be around people and to be in contact with people. You smell them, hear them. There's that wonderful contact between me and the people around me. And I find it difficult to figure out how that works with a computer screen.
I don't know. We get on with things, but it also reminds me that one of my favorite things about Covent Garden or any pitch was hanging out at the back and watching somebody else, and everybody watching the crowd and going, oh, he did that right, she did that wrong, or whatever. I would have done it this way. And, whether when you come off the pitch and everyone's coming up giving you ideas and things, whether you want them or not, but we weren't charging each other money for this process. We were coaching each other and helping each other because we knew how hard it was, and we knew how much we need the help and inspiration from each other.
Well, and that's the thing, like, especially right now, during a global pandemic, something that's so unprecedented. We have never seen anything like this in our lives. And you know, for people to try and capitalize on that, I think it's kind of gross. I think that's kind of unethical, because we've always, I mean, for hundreds of years, thousands of years, this industry has been around through people, you know, helping each other and building each other up. I know when I first went to Edinburgh Fringe to build my circle show, nobody was charging me to sit at CityCaf and rewrite my script and rewrite my gags and help me build my show. And I think that, you know, the unfortunate thing with, you know, again, like a global pandemic and everybody being in a position where we're all kind of like scrambling, the loss of sense of community has been kind of disappointing for me to see. You know, like it's actually hurt my heart to see that lack of community spirit coming together to help people. And like I said, if anybody's interested in, you know, getting, you know, film technique behind them or under their belt, I'm totally happy to talk and help people, because this is, you know, this is what I've spent the last year doing, and I'm not the greatest at it, but I certainly have been making a living off of it and paying my rent from it, and I'm happy to share the information. You know, because I do believe this can be a tool. I'm not saying it's the way of the future or, you know, street theater's over, but what I'm saying is that, like, we can use this as a tool to supplement, and we can also build new material and use it as an opportunity, as opposed to being limited and being like, oh, well, I guess I have to do this now. It's like, no, this can be an opportunity to build brand new material and expand ourselves as artists.
Well, you know, we've got Frodo here and we've got Kate here, and both of you are making me go, yeah, because you're both giving out information, and I'm going, when Frodo was talking, I'm going, well, I've got to start listening to his podcast, because it sounds like stuff that I would find really interesting. And Kate, you're going, well, there is more to this internet connection than I thought, and you know, and it's making me feel, wow. And even this, 4 of us here chatting, it's creating a community.
And absolutely, if you know, maybe it's only our mates watching this tonight, but this will be online, and maybe in the next months or years to come, some other teenagers are going to see this, and they're going to be in a town that has no street performers, and they're going to have a place where they're going to have a spark happen, hopefully.
Yeah. I think that, as far as I understand, that was part of Matt's idea, you know, creating an oral history of what's actually going on by talking to all these performers. So when I first went to Covent Garden or went to Edinburgh and all this, you're just meeting these people. And what Kate is saying, it's like everything has collapsed now, because we all had our meeting places, it's like at the festivals and on the pitches, and even me, who just basically moved into cabaret toward 12 years with La Soirée. We were one gang, but going from festival to festival, so you get to see. And once all of that collapsed, we're all just so used to loving what Chris had said. It's like, it's the smell and being in amongst it, and we're not necessarily then the quickest, because we're all quite crushed. If we are, because more so than most people who has an occupation, we identify much more deeply. Our identity is completely tied up with what we do. So once you take that away, there's just so many close friends who are having mental issues. Like, it's a difficult time now, because our identity is so close connected to the whole thing that we fall apart a little bit ourselves too, and we don't have these shared spaces already set up, so we're slow at getting into them. Sorry, Rex. I
would just agree with you that performing is not what you do; it's who you are. It's your being.
Yeah, I think it's more apt to call it a vocation or a calling, because now I'm even here and I'm talking to my sister or whatever, and she's like, oh yeah, but you can just do this job, and you can live here in Norway, and I could do, and and in one sense I can, but there's a huge part of me that just goes, and I'm anxious and uneasy about. I have such an amount of time and energy invested, and I have skills developed that puts me at the top of a field, but then when I'm here, I'm like, I usually say it's like I'm second or fourth in line for being somebody who puts their groceries into plastic bags at Tesco's. Only in Norway, you don't have that job even. Like, you have to go to school to be a cashier here. So We're so useless but have so many skills, but they're all within this thing of me standing and an audience in front of me, or however that direction goes, and then all of a sudden I become valuable. There is purpose in my life, there's purpose to what I do, and something meaningful is being created in that meeting between me and the people, and that is now gone, and it's for all of us. And that special space that comes between us and the audience, that's in a sense the home that we're always seeking. When we go from festival to festival, we go to different places to arrive at that special place. This in between us and the audience, that magic that happens there, that's where a lot of us, that's really our home, I think, us performing.
But I think you are finding it. Like, you know, I really loved when you said this is a vocation, because I've always felt that way. Oh, did we lose Frodo?
Yeah, Frodo's time. We're gonna get somebody new.
I just wanted to say that, like, he is still expressing it. He's doing his podcast. He's doing, you know, his thing. He is still expressing the vocation aspect of what we do, you know? Oh, Frodo, if you're out there, I agree with you.
Right. Latest person. I think you're the person that I thought was the first person when I got completely mixed up.
Well, hi.
Is it Mikhail?
Yes.
Okay, so let me introduce it. It's Mikhail Hessling, I think, isn't it?
Yes. Anything written down?
No, I did write some things down, but I'll do it off the top of my head. But I've never met you and never seen you work, but wherever, ever I went, when people were talking about street performers, God damn it, they would talk about the Flying Dutchman, and I never knew who the Flying Dutchmen were, what they did, but I kept being told things like, oh, they're jumping from one unicycle to another unicycle, and clubs are flying, and this is a very great show with lots of skills and comedy, but I'd never seen it, and yeah, anybody who's in the street performing world, as per me, would have heard of the Flying Dutchman, because it was like the iconic show.
Well, thank you for the nice introduction.
Off the top of my head as well.
Not bad at all. Not bad at all. Yeah, I've been actually listening to the whole thing from the beginning. It's really nice to see all the old friends, of course. And I was just listening to also, you know, Frodo, who had to, who was being kicked out gently to make space. So sorry, Kate, you were just in the middle of a conversation with Frodo. The thing about vocation and everything, of course, I think everybody that's on tonight is probably their biggest passion is performing. And so is mine. You know, I miss performing. I love performing. On the other hand, you know, I'm 52 now. I've been performing pretty much my whole adult life since I was 17 as a professional performer. And I realized in March that it was going to take about 1.5 years. I figured at that time, 1.5 years, maybe it's still going to take longer or not, that things would be more or less back to normal. So I decided just to take a complete break from everything, because I saw some performances online, and I thought, nah, that's not going to be my thing. I don't want to put any time and energy in that. I mean, all respect to you, for example, Kate, for doing it, and for the people that are doing it, but I didn't feel like it was going to be my thing. So I just decided to go do other things in the meanwhile, and I've been loving it. I've been a baseball coach for my son. And, you know, before that, one of the things that I always missed when I was performing, that you could have no regular lifestyle, meaning if I wanted to commit as a coach, I could never do that. You know, it was always, yeah, when I'm there, I'll be there. And when I'm not there, well, I'll be gone. Sorry.
Yeah.
And now I've been, you know, training twice a week with the kids. I've never missed a training yet. Oh, once, because I had to get a COVID test. I had a cold. But so I've been loving that part. I've had a computer business since 20 years. You know, I've been always doing that in between all the shows and everything. So now I've been taking courses in that field just because it ticks my logical brain. And yeah, so that's you know, as much as I miss performing, and as much as I miss being able to go to the cinema with my family or all those sort of things, I've been really enjoying some of the side effects of this crazy situation at the moment.
Yeah, Michiel, you make me think it's true that to be a good performer, especially, is a sacrifice, as far as sacrificing your family life and your social life and your normality. It's something you give up, we gain other things. But it is something that maybe a lot of people, maybe the majority of people, would never dream of giving up that regularity. But you've got to make that commitment if you want to be any good.
Yeah, it's true.
I have to say, like, you know, the potential of going back to performing in the after times is almost kind of like daunting for me, because my partner and I collaborate together on the show. He produces the show, he directs me. You know, I come up with the ideas, he implements them, and we work so well together that, like, you know, we've been together for like 13 years, and we've maybe spent 5 of those 13 years actually cohabitating, like, in the same space. And now that we're doing it because of the pandemic, and we're like making really cool art together and having fun together and coming up with gags together, it's like the idea of going back to work after this is almost like, why would I want to do that? Do I want to go back to doing this? I don't know. You know, like, spending time with your family is we just never consider doing that in this career.
That's definitely true. I mean, you know, always going away in the summer, leaving the kids behind, and missing a lot of the things that they're doing. That's always been the sacrifice, and it's always been also, you know, it can be stressful in the relationship, or if I'm going and my wife's staying at home, like, why, you know, why do I get to stay home and you get to leave, that sort of thing. And it's now the last more over a year, that's been pretty calm. It's been pretty relaxed in a way.
You mean you've been doing the washing up and the laundry and stuff, have you?
Oh yes, lots of that too. You know.
See, we have the opposite, because I've been gone for so much, and my partner is also very independent. So when we were like in the first year of lockdown, we were kind of like,
do I like you?
like, why are you in my space? So we ended up, you know, figuring out how to make it work. But it was definitely an adjustment period. It wasn't easy, kind of going from being out all the time to like being at home all the time.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, you see it. I mean, you were mentioning people that were, you know, setting up things to make a living teaching and everything. I mean, it's also just something to do, basically. You know, it's something that maybe somebody's been wanting to do for years, and now suddenly the time was right, because, well, there was nothing else to do, basically. You know, in between all those gigs, it's hard to find the time to set up such a project. So I'm sure a lot of performers have that. You know, have been like you, Kate. You know, you switched, so. You know, it's still you're still.
But I wasn't taking advantage of my peers. There's a difference.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think. Well, that's a whole different discussion. But I think you can look at it in several ways. I mean, you know, you look at Lecoq. He taught for money. You know, all those sort of schools, circus schools, everything. Everybody teaches for money.
A little bit different than during a global pandemic. Just gonna
well,
put
like
that
I said,
there.
maybe this was just the right time for that project. Maybe the project was already in the closet for several years. So I don't really want to, you know, judge it based on that. I mean, it's not something. The different ways of looking at it, I think, and I'll yeah. Well,
I'll acquiesce to that.
Yeah.
Well.
There you go.
Yeah. Moves to 3 now.
Let's switch over time.
I'm with 2 jugglers.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
So Michiel, in my head, I first met you in 1988. I think it would have been either July or August. I was in Amsterdam for maybe 3 days. I didn't do any shows. But all I did was just hang out in the Lighters Plane and watch some shows. And I remember, I didn't see you do a show, but I remember you being around, people talking about you. But I remember that being, to me, guy from Kansas, just having left and come to Europe. And
Yeah.
I remember it being unbelievably vibrant. And just the fact that people were coming from different countries and people were just really skilled and talented. I mean, what are your memories of that time?
My memory, unless Mel wants to introduce Brian, or shall I answer the question?
Yeah, hello, Brian.
If you answer the question first, then I'll introduce Brian.
All right. Well, you know, those early days on the light supply, those are my most favorite memories. This was before big amplifiers and the one, you know, the big circle shows. We could do 4 or 5 shows at the same time on the light supply, no amplifiers, and it was just magical. The whole square was filled up every night, and it was amazing social scene. At the end, we would meet at the Chess Cafe down the street. It was, like you say, it was most vibrant. It was really magical. And as soon as the amplifiers came and you had to line up and everything, for me, the magic was sort of gone on the light supply, and I hardly ever played there anymore. So that was my answer. Hi, Brian.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Okay, so this is Brian Hulse. I actually spoke to him today. He's kind of moved to Japan, and Matt describes his show as having a big power show. And I'm now in the room with 3 jugglers.
Yeah, this is ironic. Oh, Rex.
The mime who doesn't speak is being forced to speak and forced to be around 3 jugglers. But Brian speaks fluent Japanese, does great shows, and is really opened up Japan for street performers, and that's quite amazing.
I've been here 30 years. I'm originally from Indiana, for those of you who don't know me. And I kind of came up at the same time that Rex and McKeel did. We're kind of all, it's nice to be sharing the same stage with you guys again. I met Rex. He doesn't remember it, but we met in Australia in '88 somewhere.
No, I wasn't there. No, we met way before then. We met definitely in 1987 in Key West at the Buskers Fest. You and I were both there.
Yes.
But I can't remember if it was just before that or maybe it was just after that I went to Indianapolis and saw you do some shows down at the train station. And so maybe so maybe that was like right after meeting you in January of '87. And you, me, and Mickey Connor were the 3 young guys who went to that big Buskers Fest. But 88, I was in London. It was 89 that I went to Australia. So that's what I remember.
Really?
Yeah.
I could have sworn I met you in Australia, but I guess that's what age does.
Yeah, there you go.
Vivid memories. And McKeel, we were in Halifax in '88 or something.
We did, but before that, we actually met in Key West. You were in Key West in '88 as well, I believe.
Yes, that's.
I remember you doing a routine. You had this routine where you put I think a breadstick or something in a girl's mouth, and you would chop it into little pieces. And then the last bit you would take out with your mouth. And I thought, man, that's a clever bit.
Match kiss. That evolved from trying to think of. I had worked with a partner, and we'd pass around people and knock something out of their mouth, as a lot of passing. Juggling routines do. Yep. Been there, done that. I was thinking, how can I build the same kind of tension as a solo act? And then I came up with lining 3 people up, a straw, cigarette, and a match. The first person holding the straw, the second person holding the cigarette, and the beautiful girl from the audience holding the teeny tiny match. And of course, the tension builds as the objects get shorter. A bunch of little gags, which Lee Ross said, put a blindfold on the person with a cigarette, which opened all kinds of opportunities for comedy. And then you get down to the match and say, everybody on the count of 3, we're going to remove the match from her lips. 1, 2, 3, high throw, reach over, snatch the match. I love that bit. But of course, you can't do it now in the politically correct environment that the world has become. So my entire 90s career was based, my show in the 80s was based around that big signature bit. I was so proud of that bit, and now can't really do it. When I came to Japan, I found that it didn't work in this culture. In the North America and in Europe and Australia, it worked 100% of the time. Everybody loved it. But when I did it in Japan, I noticed sometimes, 1 out of 100 times, there'd be a problem. One girl like burst into tears. I've never been kissed before. Wow. And I was like, you have now. And of course, that didn't do too well.
Now, Brian, when I had my my Robin Hood show, my 3 people from the audience volunteer show, I memorized my show in Japanese, and I was trying my best to get some gigs in Japan, and I kept thinking I was going to get a gig, and I never went. But I kept getting told by the booker, the promoter, that that volunteer piece was not going to work with Japanese people, that they would be too self-conscious to do it. Does anybody do volunteer pieces today, or has it evolved, or do you agree?
Yes, it has evolved, and audiences have become more enthusiastic about being part of the show. Japanese culture is very unique in the fact that things evolve very slowly, but once they catch on, it becomes a national pastime, kind of. To the point where now I think there are more street performers per capita in Japan than any other country in the world.
Wow.
And it's become it used to be, when I first arrived back in 1989, 1990, I'm a street performer, and people would say, "Oh, Daido Gaming, you mean like the guy that sells the bananas or the picture box?" Because there's this whole, buy it. Hey, everybody, I'm the banana salesman. Come around and buy a banana. 1 banana for $1, 2 bananas for $2, and 5 bananas for $10. Come on up and get your $10 of bananas. And it's this whole shucking and jiving, street vendor kind of thing. A lot of Japanese street performer traditional Japanese street performing evolved from kind of selling something. There was a frog oil salesman who would cut his arm with a sword and then rub this ointment on it, and the cut would go away. Called Gama no Abura Uri, selling the frog oil. And it was this big hype, the snake oil salesman show.
I've seen that in Singapore, the guy with snakes and that sort of thing going on.
Well, this was just the oil, the cure-all cream. It was the cure-all cream, and you can put this on anything. You can put it on a nosebleed, hemorrhoid. And actually, somebody recruited me to do this about my 2nd or 3rd year in Japan. They say, "Oh, we want to teach this to a foreigner." And it didn't really work for me. I didn't really like the idea of having a mentor, not a mentor. They have the master apprentice kind of hierarchy in Japan. So you learn something from someone and they become your master, and you're their subservient slave until you're deemed good enough to have your own subservient slave. And the point was, when I first came to Japan, that's what people thought. The Japanese people thought that's what street performing was. And I'm like, oh no, I do this show. I juggle and ride a unicycle and tell jokes. Oh, really? Juggling? What's that? And now 30 years later, you say, I'm a juggler. And they say, oh, you're a street performer. I'm like, oh, so.
But wasn't it also, Brian, that in the old days,
street performing,
that the Yakuza was very strong in a lot of places, and the Yakuza would send people off because it's their turf. And I remember you meeting you in Japan years and years ago, and you were basically fearless. You were just like, you were telling these Yakuza to fuck off, basically. And that was one way of opening up the pitches in Japan, is just, standing up to the Yakuza. Or do you remember that differently?
Yeah, that's true.
Can
I want to mention this shirt that I have on. I got into performing because my mother met this hippie juggler in the parking lot of a ferry, and that's how I learned to juggle when I was like 12. And this shirt's from the Indiana Children's Museum, and it says, got a mother and a little kid there, and it says, "I'm still here." it's a hard place to leave. It's a hard place to leave. And I kind of thought this was a great shirt to wear to honor my mother. Thanks, Mom, for
it still fits.
buying a unicycle instead of a computer when I was a kid, like I asked. It's her fault that I'm doing this now, but it's her blessing. I was very supported by my parents. And when I got here and met the Yakuza and discovered that their bark was worse than their bite, I bit back and they just went, oh, okay. I found out that they would make a lot of noise, but they would never throw a punch. They would never really do anything. They would just kind of intimidate you. They would try to run you off the pitch. And I stood up to them, and then I started telling young Japanese people, oh, if you want to work, just go work. You don't need a permit. You don't need a scheduled pitch. Just go out and find a spot and start doing shows. And when somebody tells you you can't do it, ask them why and what are the repercussions of me doing this? Are you going to arrest me? Are you going to beat me up? Yes or no? No? Okay, then go away. Oh, well, I'll scare your audience away. And I would tell the audience, if you let this guy scare you away, then he wins. Do you like having this guy intimidate you and make you do what he says? And this is your neighborhood. If you want to stay and watch your show, watch your show. Tell this guy to go away. And then the police would come. And it turned out that the mafia, the Yakuza, was calling the police. So then the police would come. And I'd say, what are you going to do? Deport me? Arrest me? Yes or no? No. Then go away. And they'd say, well, we got a phone call. And I'm like, well, who called you? Well, we can't tell you. I'm like, I know who called. The guy that I just told to go away. And eventually the police would stop coming. And then, it became this, oh, well, we can go down and see a show. And then event producers started hating on it. There was this huge boom in the 90s. Everybody was all these people were making money off street performing. Shizuoka Street Performer Festival, the Daido Gay World Cup in Shizuoka isn't about street performing. It's about the production company making a bunch of money. If cows were popular, they'd have a cow parade. So they dangle this 20,000.
And we all dress up like cows.
Pardon?
And we'd all dress up like cows.
There's actually a street performer in Japan that did.
Who's arrived? Paul Morocco.
Hi, Paul.
Hello.
And
I'm a bit late.
Introduction. I first saw Paul. He came to when he came to Covent Garden, and bloody hell, all the performers were like, "Whoa, this guy is so good!" Really, all the performers were going, "Whoa, we've got to see this. We've got to watch this," and loads of people were watching him, and I think that was great. But what really impressed me, and it's not about performing,
it's how much you sweat.
I had a conversation with Paul, and he told me that he was going to do this new show that involved guitars and various other things. And with a lot of people, they go, well, we're going to do this, and it never happens. Bloody hell, he ends up with this Ole show that travels the world with guitars and singing and juggling and everything else. So that's my intro.
Thank you, Melvin. But in Japan, it's called Ore.
Ore.
Like
Oreo cookie.
Please close the door. Sorry, just because. Sorry, I came in late and the sound is not perfect, but I just was jumping. Thank you, Melvin, for that. And by the way, me and Melvin, we did that gig in Maverick in Glastonbury. That wasn't you? Oh shit! Did you play the?
I wish I did, but I didn't.
Oh, okay. By the way, I have Alessandro Bernardi here. Oh, he's visiting me. Original Ole, original duo.
He would go back to Covent Garden. He would be from Covent Garden.
Covent Garden, Los Primos.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
I can't see your face.
He said he hasn't seen your face. He hasn't seen you for a while. Anyway, okay.
Still got your ponytail?
Show your face. Can't you see them? Yeah, but very far. Anyway, we're on air, Alex. Okay. We're on air. Just to stay there if you want. Yeah. So just the Japan. I'll never forget my first. I guess we all did Holland Mura, Holland Village. Yeah, you did. So, and I just remember we and some of the guys. I don't know if you were there. No, we dressed up as we call it the Kimoni Five, like Jackson 5, and we had like kimonos, and we put dark sunglasses on. And we went around the town as the Kimoni 5. So we thought that was funny. But when we went to a McDonald's, and I remember asking for less ice, and I remember they didn't understand, and I asked for less ice, and she went, "Oh no 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 no," and then she went and spoke with her manager. And then he looked at her, he said, no, 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 no. And then he came to me. I said, less ice as possible. They looked at each other, went, oh, no, 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 no. And then I said, is it not possible? And then I went to another, and there was like 3 levels. And there was a big discussion about me having less ice. And it became a kind of mental thing for me. Like, I just couldn't believe it. Was like, it was like in 2008 when the financial crisis hit. The needle just moves a little bit, and the whole thing just doesn't work.
I think that probably was related to their misinterpretation of what you were saying. They thought you were asking for a little rice.
Yeah, and they don't have the word. They don't have the word for no, right? In Japan, no doesn't exist.
Same in China.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I kind of have made a transition from being the ignorant gaijin, the unknowing foreigner, to helping people who come to Japan. So right now I'm working on the Olympics as a translator for this group of electricians that have come to supply electricity to the surfing venue for the Olympics. So I negotiate between these 5 electricians who have never been to Japan before and speak no Japanese, and then with about 20 contractors who are building the infrastructure for the surfing venue. So it's kind of like helping people set up for a show, but it's like the biggest show of the year. It's surfing at the Olympics. So it's kind of cool to hear these stories about misinterpretations about trying to get less ice and going, oh, no, he's saying Koi, not Gohan.
Anyway, Japan is the most amazing. I think of all the places I've been, I mean, I've heard this from many people. Like, it just really stands out. Very, very unique. Like, it doesn't follow certain rules, and it's just that it's kind of like something like Switzerland meets Asia meets. They're after the perfection thing, and there's this buzz. And if it's false or it's social nicety or pretentiousness, it doesn't matter. It's energy, and everybody is drinking the Kool-Aid, and it just feels like, I just remembered, besides the food and everything else, it's really amazing. But can I just say one last thing about Japan? And are we going too long on Japan?
It's fine.
Is it all right?
If you're enjoying it, then it's fine.
We came in on the Japan thing. So when we did Daidoge and Shizuoka, they said, like, there was lots of artists there. And the son of Japan Media Exchange, Carol, and Rio, their son, Alexander, he was the guy there.
Fuck, I'm on.
Eh?
I'm on.
You're on. Hey.
Okay,
Silver.
you're on.
Hey, so why didn't someone fucking tell me that I was on? I was so engrossed in Paul's story that I just went, wait a minute, what's happening here? Sorry, Paul. Sorry, I was engrossed in your story, and then
I feel like
suddenly
we've done Japan too long now, so I'm going to come off Japan. And whenever the
Can I just say something real quick before I leave about this podcast? This is the 100th episode, and I think it's so cool what Matt has put together, and that everybody has come together.
I'm on.
And I've been a huge fan since the beginning.
Can I get that turned up?
I know a lot of people now because of this podcast. I've never been to England. I've never been to Edinburgh, to the Edinburgh Fest, having been here. And I think this is so cool to hear everyone's stories and re-meet people like Paul. We haven't seen each other for 20 years. It's good to be together again. And I just want to say thank you to Matt for setting this all up. And I hope it continues to the 1,000. I can't wait until the 1,000th episode. I'm looking forward to that.
Now, Matt's done a great job, and there's often lots of really good chats God damn it, Dynamite has been brilliant tonight. He's been doing all the technical side, and he's going to help Matt be able to make it possible for people to search through the interviews by keywords, which will be really useful for people who want to learn about performing, because there's loads of great stuff that people have said when they're doing their individual stories. What happened to Graham? He's pissed off. He was here a minute ago and he's gone.
Mikel left as well.
We got Graham back, and
Hey! Can I just say one thing? Go and not you personally. This is not personally. For 33 years, I was called Silver, and then suddenly, in the last 3 or 4 years, there was only 2 people that called me Graham: my mother and my wife, Joanna. And suddenly, I've got grown men calling me Graham, and I associate with females that are close to me or who I had sex with. What the fuck is it with Graham? Now listen, there's Paul Morocco, there's fucking Mikel from the Flying Dutchman, there's people that I've known for 30 years. They don't know his me. Oh, hi Graham. What the hell was called Graham on the fucking Lysa plane 5 years ago? No, it was Silver, man. Oh, you should know this.
Silver, I think you should introduce yourself and what you've done.
My name's Graham Scott, and I've got a proper job. I pay tax. I'm not a layabout like all the fucking street performers that juggle on streets. And I like fluffy dogs. Is that enough? Do you want some more?
Well, I could say that you were the person who did mime, robotic, slow-mo, and dancing on the street. I could say that.
That is also true with the fluffy dogs. Yeah.
With the fluffy dogs.
Yeah. Okay, then. I'm just going to get into it. Can I just say one? From the heart, I'm really quite humbled to be actually talking, not to you, but to everyone that's been involved and everyone that's going to be watching this. I feel quite honoured to be asked back again after being slagged for the last year, having a 4-hour fucking interview. And can I just point out, and I'm not telling a lie, hand on heart today, it was recorded in June last year, got lots of views. I didn't watch it till after Edinburgh Festival. I watched the first 2 hours. How narcissistic can you be? I watched 4 hours myself. I couldn't do it. I watched the first 2 and I was quite happy. It's good. Guess what I did at 2:30 today? I watched the last 2 hours. Fuck, at 3:30 in the morning, I'm saying to Matt, I'm trying to finish here. Can I finish? No, I'd like to. I asked Matt twice. Matt, if you're listening, I asked you twice. I said, I'm trying to finish, and you kept going. And then it was like 4 hours. So can I just say, it wasn't me that made the 4 hour.
We enjoyed the 4 hours.
But
Silver.
Can I just I would like to go and talk about the 2 hours today that I saw for the first time in 10 months. And there's 2 things that I want to bring up. I'm talking shop here, and it's not going too fucking deep, because after 3.5 hours, right, I said to Matt, right, I'm trying to finish here. I had some notes because I've got a bad memory. I'm trying to finish here, Matt. No. And he came out with, I had said something, and Matt said 2 things as I've taken notes, just 2 things. He said, 1, we can't let the rich kids take over when all the licensings and all the license and all this. and he was saying that, can you imagine being a kind of street grungy person, and straight away I think of me and Tony, sorry, street grungy people, filling out a form, going for that and doing that, having insurance. That didn't happen. But 20 years ago, that could happen. Anybody could turn up. And what Matt said, he also said, was that street performing gives people who do not want to conform, who cannot conform, and people who sometimes don't fit in with normal society, that street performing gives them an outlet and they become really expressive. I thought that was deep. I thought that was fucking the essence. Street performing gives the opportunity for people who don't fit in, might want to be this and do that, and they want to be, and they're creative. And they're like creative, they don't fit in, and they're a wee bit extrovert. I'll put my hand up to that. And the street performance, but I'm just going back to Matt. This isn't me. Matt said two things. One, we can't let the rich kids take over and be in charge. And two, street performing used to give people that didn't want to conform and who couldn't conform to normal a chance to express themselves.
Silver, just two things. Well, one thing really. Mikhail has just written for Rumpole. I've got my glasses. For Rumpole, 4 hours is just the warm up.
I've seen Rumpole. No, right. I think part of this special thing. Sorry, I'm too close for you, Paul. Is we talk a lot of shop, and because I'm slightly out the game now, I don't do the street. I love talking to peers, and I can talk shop. But with Rumpole, and I have to not bring Haggis into this, but I've got to let Haggis know because Haggis booked this act. Me and Joanna are coming back at about 9:30, walking through the circus field. We've seen a show. Rumpole is on the grass doing a show. He's got maybe about 50 people in a circle. And we thought, hey, who's that baldy little cunt? He's a juggler. I don't talk to jugglers. So me and Joanna are coming through the circus and the circus theatre, and here's a Rumpole doing a show on the ground, and there's about 50 people. So me and Joanna just stopped. We sat down beside a random, and the first thing this random said to me and Joanna was, "This guy's a fucking genius. I've been here for 8 hours laughing my tits off. He's the best thing I've seen at Glastonbury, and I've been here for 8 hours." Meanwhile, Rumpole, who's been doing it for 16 hours, someone's bought him a curry and rice. So he's eating a curry and rice, doing he's already been doing 16 hours. This random that says, "I've been here for 8 hours. This guy's a genius." And we just sat down. That's a Rumpole story. Fucking yes.
Right.
The guy with the red hat and glasses, is that Moby? Because I bought your first album. It was really good.
All right. I've just got to introduce Anthony Livingspace or whatever name, Anthony Campbell, I don't know, the street clown. And I actually, when he was working, I never saw him work, and I wish I had done. And from what I've heard and what I've seen, I really would have loved to have done some shows with Tony. I really would. The other thing from his stories, I would say that I have incredible respect for Tony, because in his life, he set up a school for deprived kids and he still supports it. And big respect for having done that.
Bye.
Over to you, Tony.
I don't know. I been doing this for 34 years or something, and suddenly the last 3 years people started calling me Tony, and I don't know why. I've always been called Anthony. People start calling me Tony, and shut up, Graham. As people start calling me Tony, Graham.
Silver.
So I just want to set the record straight, because I've been doing this for 34 years, and my name's Anthony. It's not. My mother calls me Anthony. My girlfriend calls me Anthony. So I'm relating. No, Tony. Anthony. Tony. They call me Tony. So I'm relating Tony to women that I either shag or listen to. So can people just stop calling me Tony and call me Anthony? Because
Matt, where are you?
Let me tell you a story about
now.
I was watching that guy. What's his name? The clown that Crikey, what's his name? Yeah, I was watching him. I think I've done all your material now, Graham.
You know me so well, Tony. But that wasn't material. That was true story.
Stop calling me Tony.
You what?
I said stop calling me Tony.
Sorry. Well, you stop calling me Graham.
All right, then, Silver.
Hey, how's it going, Anthony? Long time no see.
That's all right. So, should we get on with the interview?
It's not an interview. It's more of a discussion, I think.
No, it's an interview. He's interviewing everybody for the 100th interview. Where's Paul Morocco going?
I've been on here for 15 minutes, and I thought it was a discussion. Now it's a fucking interview. I better get my glasses on and be serious.
It's a freaking interview. This is an interview show.
I thought it was a discussion between well-known street performers.
That's the other channel, Graham. You're on the wrong channel.
Again. Too much of the sauce, Tony.
Where's Morocco?
Disappeared. He was here.
Morocco's just below Spain.
No, very clever. Very clever, ladies and gentlemen. Graham Scott. He'll be here all week.
No, I'll be here for the next 10 minutes. No, we all get a shot, Tony, and then the window opens and then it closes and people get...
There's no more. There's no more. We're it. That's it. We're the last ones.
But I've got 4 pictures. I've got Melvin, myself, and you, and I've got a picture of food on a table.
Morocco's breakfast.
Right, so that's Morocco, right. Okay then, so it's not a discussion, it's an interview. So over to the interviewer then.
No, it's a discussion.
Yes.
You see, fuck you, fucking Campbell. It's a discussion. It's not an interview.
It's living space while I'm on here. It's living space while I'm on here. Thank you.
That's one for me.
Silver and living space then. I've got it at last. I'm blaming Matt for this.
I'm blaming Matt for everything.
No. I am more than happy to call that young man living space.
I'm happy to call him living space and Silver, and hopefully I'm on the right page now.
So you're calling us both by our real names. That's very kind. Thank you. Tony, I think we're on to a good one here.
Oh, look, it's Matt.
The man of the moment.
Hey, everybody. How you doing? Nice to see you.
It's Kidney Boy.
Yeah, Kidney Boy has arrived. I tactically, since this nightmare of interviewing and technical wizardry was coming up for the 100th episode, I very cleverly got kidney failure at the weekend.
Matt, I've noticed a pattern that every time you want me to come on here, you get sick, and I feel sorry for you, so I have to come on. So
what can I say? When it works, mate. You know, human beings are good at forming patterns and recognizing when they function well, and that's all I'm doing. I'm utilizing what works. I think we should have a quick look at the comments. Someone who's, I think, been very influential on both Graham and Anthony here.
Fuck off, Silver.
I'm sorry, Silver. I'm sorry. You know why that's happened? It's because of Facebook. It's because we all see you as Graham Scott on Facebook now.
Have you just heard the last 5 minutes
I've been
between
pissing
me,
myself out. I
Tony,
heard
and
you
Melvin?
say it.
Melvin is calling Tony Livingspace, and he's calling me Silver. Join in, Silver and Livingspace. That's who you're talking to.
Silver, I do apologise. I will call you Silver
Sorry.
and Livingspace down there. I will also name him that such. Mr. Lee Ross in the comments has asked, so does anybody of the old school want to talk about the up and coming next year or two, or what there hopefully will happen?
Nope.
Over to you, Tony, because over to you, Matt, and over to you, Tony, because you two are still doing the streets. Not me.
What's going to happen in the next 2 years?
Well, I can say for London, there's going to be a battle in Westminster for the licensing, which is building up and slowly coming. The license was put in on the 5th of April, and now everyone's working in Covent Garden as criminals. They're all working without a license. They've all refused to get licensed, and we're waiting for the police to arrest us. So over the next year, there will be a battle, and we'll either topple Westminster Council or the street culture of London will be irreparably changed forever. So that will be something interesting to happen.
Well, even without the pandemic, I think you have to look at like trends over the last 15 years, and the fact that street performing is slowly seems to be dying a very, very slow death. Whether it's through restrictions, or whether it's through content, whether it's through the lack of diversity within.
Tie you down. You're talking about lack of diversity and lack of creativity. You're talking about the vibrancy, the culture that's built around it.
Yeah. So it's all tied in with economics, where you've got people who are more desperate to make money, so they're not relaxing. So there's no play. There's no, you go up. For example, when I think it was that day that you and me spent in Leicester Square, when all the breakdancers were there and we were all doing good shows, and it was a beautiful day, and we were hanging out in the park and we were swapping skills, and you've got your shirt out to dry because you're going to do another show, and you're having a couple of beers, everything's fine. That's how I remember it. That's why I do it, or did it. I do it. But those days are so far and few in between now.
Because all the pictures have so many people performing on them.
Rex Boyd, there's lots of people performing, and there's lots of people not respecting it with the amplifiers, putting the music too loud so that they get a crowd, because if they think if they don't put it loud, they won't get money, or they don't have the crowd building skills, so they need to put the amp up super loud to try and get a crowd.
They don't get all day to practice and play and learn. They get one show and they're shit. So if you don't make them, you're fucked.
Like I say, there's no single kind of thing. It's a conglomerate of many factors that lead to panic, and that's what people are in, the state of panic. With the shops aren't making money, so there's the whole story. There's everyone in the 80s, they're making money in their shops. So they're buying their yachts or whatever. They walk out the shop, they hear a crowd cheering. They don't care. Hey, they're behind their till with all their money cheering themselves. Hey, isn't this great? As soon as the economy starts to turn down, the first thing they do is walk out the shop and go, oh, fuck, what's that noise? It's an annoying fucking street performance. They blame it on the first thing that they possibly can. Well, this is why we're not making it, mate. It's the street performance. Then they complain to the management. The management, who do they represent? The council. They want to represent more and more and more rather than representing the people. They want to represent the store holders, the biggest stakeholders, because they're upset because they're not getting the footfall.
The people who have leverage, they have leverage within the infrastructures of governance, which is what people acquiesce to in the end. But also,
and before that, I know that myself, before that, in Melbourne, when that kind of stuff happened, I was able to walk into the city council and state my case, and they'd have the big players there. And I'd protest to a lot of things, and they'd have to acquiesce to what we said back then, because we did threaten them to go out and just block the streets, preaching, and they couldn't stop us doing that. And I said, we'll do it, many times. But now with the way they give they create these companies in perpetuum that run the street. So there's a buffer between you and the council, or you and your rights. because you just can't even get them because they'll say talk to them and they'll say talk to them. No, we don't give a fuck. We're an events company. Have you got a CD to show us what your act is?
Well, also that the power, because what happened when I began 20 years ago was that there was kind of inferred power. They didn't have these powers, but they kind of pretended they did, and people who didn't know better accepted it. Now, because of it seems like almost all over the world, governments and populations are willing to give more authority to governments to protect them in public. Those powers are actually coming into action. There are now in most countries powers for a police officer to come and stop you because they don't like what you're doing, essentially.
Exactly.
And
You know, and the other day they stopped a preacher. That's the first time I've seen that.
Yes, the
anywhere.
preacher.
They stopped a preacher. No, I'm not somebody who's into people, you know, but
Tony, that freaked me out.
I mean, that's one of the first, you know, laws that you're aware of when you work the street is that preaching is, you know, free speech. It can't be stopped.
Yeah, and
but can I just say to you, three people, we're all of a certain age, and we've all been on the street for a certain time. We have come across street preachers everywhere. We work next to street preachers. We don't wait for them to stop because they don't stop. We all know that. Street preachers will talk from 12 to 5. So anyway, saying that, when I saw your post today, Matt, about a street preacher, and there's 3 policemen telling him his rights, anything you will say will be taken down, and there's 3 of them, and he's a 75-year-old man.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
That freaked me out. That would not happen 5 years ago. 10, 15, 20, a Christian preacher with 3 policemen getting handcuffed and being read his rights.
You know, and in Amsterdam, on the lights of plane in Amsterdam, there was a preacher there, and I was waiting behind him, and the main cop came up. Remember the bald guy with the earring? The head cop from Amsterdam police station came up, and he said, "What's wrong? Why aren't you doing your show?" And I said, "Preacher won't stop." But I didn't say anything. Do you know what I mean? I was just waiting. I was waiting till the preacher stopped, or when I felt like I'd go over the top of him. And the policeman said to me, "Look, it's not my place. It's not my place to tell anybody where they can and where they can't do this. But I'll go and have a word." And he went and talked to the preacher, and the preacher turned around. He went, "Yeah, okay, fine." But that was the cop's first comment: "Is it's not my place to do this."
Yeah.
Freaked me out, man. A preacher being arrested by 3 policemen. Now that's how bad it is. Now, if you want to juggle on a unicycle, if you want to put on a boombox and start to body pop, if a preacher who's talking about what everybody else knows but thinks he's a fucking nutter, and he is, but hey, if he wants to talk about someone in a sky and we want to go, hey, danger, woo, they're both bullshit, but one is entertaining, and the people that go, oh, danger, make the cash.
There's more.
The preacher being arrested has just blown my mind, and because of the pandemic, because of what we've just gone through, and I'm going to go deep here, my personal opinion is society as a whole in the world, not just Western society, but the culture of society, we have gone through a paradigm shift. Nothing will be the same again. Full stop. Don't think it's going to go back to 5 years ago. Is it fuck? I think we're all most intelligent enough to appreciate that is not going to happen.
Well, not quickly.
Where's Tony?
He popped off. I imagine he'll be back in a minute. So I just
you
don't.
Got bored.
I don't think he's going to come back quickly. Okay. So what I think will happen is when I started performing, most of London was off limits. People got shut down. In the 20 years I've been doing it now, London's becoming open and available, and people can actually, work most of London. It's now going to close down again. And what I suspect will happen is that it'll become so dead and flaccid because people who get licenses are 15-year-old musicians who want to go on Top of the Pops. They don't tend to be proper circus acts, circle acts. They just don't do it. So I reckon the scene will die, the license will die off. Exactly what we said before. It's rich kids a lot of time who have the right pens and papers, and the kids that have, you know, been messed up,
please.
They won't get it. So I think the scene will die, and maybe in London in 20 years' time, people do what I did 20 years ago and what other people did years before that in Covent Garden, and they'll fight and open a new place up, and a new scene will grow, and they'll get, you know, 2 decades before the forces of evil, so to speak, come to close them down.
Right. I heard the last bit. I actually have lost the thread from the very beginning, because I was going to ask you, have you actually listened to the whole 2.5 hours?
Yeah, I can tell you. I've got a couple of notes I've took. You know,
did you hear me tell, and did you hear me say that I listened to the last 2 hours for the first time for 10 months today?
Yes.
And you came out with 2, for me, prophetic things. Really unbelievable. And do you remember what I said?
Well, you said, I remember saying the thing where you're talking about, and I thought it was out of context at the beginning where you said we can't let the rich kids get everything. But I understand what I was saying by the end of it is that if you're a young person that's grown up in care, if you've grown up without a proper education, if you've been an alcoholic or a drug user, or you've been abused and you have something which has pushed you out of the main stretch of society and you're not organized, you are probably, if just to have a go at something and just to see if it works for you, you're probably going to be dissuaded from having that initial go at doing something by the fact that you have to go to the council, fill out forms. More likely than not, through your life, you've been kind of trained to be avoidant of authority. So these people get isolated and pushed out by having these work hurdles. And so what happens there is that we then suddenly take these people who, a huge amount of them, go through the street and do street performance or street music or street art or street poetry, and then they manage to form a craft within our public squares and then have incredibly successful careers and build amazing lives. We take all of those people and we essentially completely cut away the stairs for them to get onto the first floor of culture, you know, by creating licenses and restrictions in public places. And in Westminster particularly, having nowhere you can perform. It's a criminal offence to perform in most places. It's awful. It is awful. It's something I'm very, very disappointed about. But Silver, I wanted to talk about something else very quickly, just about you.
No, okay. I was going to cut you off because we were on what you brought up, and it was brought up in the last half hour of our 4-hour conversation. And for the first time today, I've been slagged for the last 12 months or for the last 10 months, or you did a 4-hour interview. If you go back at 3:30 in the morning after 3.5 hours, I said to you twice, Matt, I'm trying to finish up here. And you went, no. I went, no, but, and then I said twice, Matt, I'm trying to finish up.
I have to say this.
So it was you that continued.
People didn't moan about it for 4 hours.
And do you remember what actually continued? It was, I was complaining about the statues being, not the statues, the Peruvians being a plague in the 80s, which you were not aware of.
Well, not
you're aware of, and then you compared it to the plague of the statues.
Yes,
and you got into a deep philosophical discussion.
Yes,
about the people who don't have cash. But for me, Peruvians were a plague, and now for you, statues are a plague, and you went into some deep philosophical discussion.
I do feel like I have to just give context to this first of all.
Yeah.
Hey,
Hey,
see that.
Sorry, I just came in and heard Peruvians were a plague, statues were a plague, and that's all I heard when I was coming in. But the statues aren't a plague. Peruvians weren't a plague. Inconsiderate people were a plague, and they still are. It's not the thing that they do, or it's not statues. It's not, I don't believe it's to do with the motivations of the people, not what they're doing, not the content of what they're doing. It's their motivation. So it's not statues are a plague. There's plenty of statues out there. There's plenty of great Bolivian bands out there. What's the problem is people's attitude.
Yeah,
and the people's attitude, they were Peruvians, now they're people from mainland Europe. But can I just say, and I think
it's about the attitude,
important,
not about there's because there's street performers are plague as well. They're plague proportions.
Yes.
Oscars are plague proportions as well. There's people who don't give a shit.
Before we talk about any more of this, Graham, Silver.
Oh.
Livingspace.
Yes.
Before we go on about this, can we just give context for people who don't know? When we say Peruvians, we're talking about the Peruvian flute bands. And what happened in the early 80s and the 90s is the Peruvian government, as far as I'm aware, subsidized and gave amplifiers and CDs. And there was some kind of organization that pushed for Peruvians to go to public squares and play music and sell CDs because it was a very profitable thing to do. So they were everywhere. When Silver is talking about statues, he's talking about there was a big influx throughout a lot of the cities in Europe of floating Yodas and floating costume characters, which were Romany people who were coming over from Romania and doing that there. Now, the issue with the Peruvians was, and this is what Tony's saying about considerate people, is they were too loud. They were very loud in a lot of places. They wouldn't share. Now, it's a different thing with the Romany guys. The Romany guys are really nice. They usually worked with people if you were decent with them. And they just had very low quality costumes and people didn't like the look of it. I think with all of these people, it's essential that you give them the opportunity. Not give them, it's essential that they have equal opportunity with us to be on the street and create culture. I mean, look at the example of the Romany.
Hang on, because I faced those bands, the Peruvian bands, and one would try to talk to them and say, listen, can you play now and let us have a go now?
But you're not surely saying they're all the same, are you?
They go bugger off.
Exactly. And Melvin, my experience was that in Edinburgh, I went down to the pub when they'd all finished work. I went down and spoke to them in the pub. And then when I came on and they were up against me in Edinburgh, they all went, hey, it's Tony, let's turn it down.
When I went to Edinburgh,
because it just depends. It depends if you approach people in a high in that situation. It's all about how you approach them. I was on the Lights plane once, and there was 5 African guys drumming, and everyone's not doing shows. I said, "What's going on? I think these guys won't stop." I walked over, said, "Nice drum. How's it going? Nice day. Do you reckon you could stop so I do a show?" "Yeah, sure, man. Whatever." People, because of our self-entitlement, we have a lot of self-entitlement that the picture's ours. It's not. It's everybody's. It's the priests. It's the prostitutes. It's everybody's. Yes. It's the beggars. It's everyone. And our self-entitledness makes us not adept to walking up to people and going, "Hey, could we share?"
No,
walking up to a beggar and saying, "How long are you going to be here?" "Oh, look, well, here's 10 quid."
I agree with what Tony was saying, but I'm going to use a performer's name that we all know, Mick Savage, right?
Dave.
Yeah. Sorry, Dave McSavage, who went to court in Edinburgh in '92 for saying the word penis. And I think me and Tony were in the court at the same time. There's a picture in the Scotsman of about 5 or 6 performers with Dave McSavage going, "I'm free." And yeah, me and Tony are in the photograph in the Scotsman. Big deal. But my story is, and I think this is what people want to hear from 100th episode or more, is not just the shop talk, which I'm really enjoying because I'm out of it and I don't mix my beers anymore, is I've actually lost my thread there. Can I come back to it? What was I saying there?
Well, you were really enjoying because you're out of the game and you don't talk shop that much anymore.
Oh, Dave McSavage. I was on the Liza plane some Friday, Saturday night. Let's call it 95, 96. So I used to bump into Dave McSavage about once or twice a year. and it was always in Amsterdam when he had finished a tour or he came back. And it was one of these nights, maybe 74, 75, and I just, hey, so Dave McSavage is on the Lysa plane with his drum on the back, his mouth organ, his cymbals. He's a complete one-man band. And I'm meeting an old friend again. I went, hey, how's it going? Fuck, Dave. He goes, oh, Silver, good to see you. I went, so what's been happening? And Dave went, well, I left Ireland and I decided instead of going all to the major cities, what I thought is I'd go up to Norway. And I wouldn't go to Oslo. I planned to go to a lot of small places and kill Norway for the summer. And guess what happened, Silver? Every fucking small village in fucking Norway had a Peruvian band. Sorry, that's a plague. If you're going to small towns in fucking Norway and every small town has a Peruvian band,
I think
that means they're not only in Norway, they're in Denmark, they're in Sweden.
I think there's unfortunate connotations with taking a nation of people and describing their economic movement through a country as a plague. I'll say that.
I didn't catch that last one thing.
Should we move on from Peruvians?
Yes, but
Yeah,
I'm just saying that Peruvians were a scam.
I know I'm probably talking a lot, but there's on the original question, which was from Lee Ross, which was what's going to happen in the next 2 years. If we extrapolate from what's happening now, with starting with the tightening of licensing, starting with insurance, all those things, that street performers, I know street performers who were pushing for that kind of stuff because they wanted to thin out the herds. The street performers used to go into the office of Melbourne, and they used to tell them not to give licenses to these people, these different people. And I'd have to go back in and sort it out and say, give them licenses. Everybody gets a license. If it's just a formality, everyone gets a license. Buskers work against themselves. Street performers work against themselves because they want to clear the pitch. There's a lot of people out there who are just money orientated and they want to clear the pitch. And now it's even more so. The tighter it gets, the worse it's going to get. The more that we're fighting in between each other, the more the council is going to take notice, because the council really don't want to do anything, because that's their job, is not to do anything. Unless, man, unless there's a problem. But now it's, the next 2 years, I just think it's going to get, you're either going to end up with a bunch of non-invasive shit.
It's going to be violin players and some very beautiful statues, and that's what it'll be. It'll be non-threatening, non-offensive.
In London, there's one big business and two conglomerates of businesses that are in some sort of club who've been pushing for licenses.
Holber, Heart of London Business Alliance, and the North Bank Business Alliance.
Aligned with the people who own Covent Garden.
Yeah, they want control of the public spaces. The business, because bid groups, they sound like they're all the individual enterprises getting together. Single business owners manage to have leverage in their local street. Sounds great, but what it is in effect is it's the most powerful chains down the high street managing to expand their influence from their own stores into the public squares, and that's what Westminster Council are now facilitating. In the long run,
it's this insidious usurping of public spaces, making them, privatizing them, but still calling them public.
And what's happening in the UK now is that they've criminalized trespass. The reason why we could have these public-private spaces and they could still be called public historically was because trespass was a civil wrong. So even if we had a public space that's privately owned, it didn't impact on the liberty and freedom of the individuals using it. Whereas now, as soon as we make trespass a criminal offence, when people own private land, let's say, for example, Trafalgar Square, the downstairs area of Trafalgar Square, that main area is actually owned by the GLA. It's not public. So the GLA, at one point, their warranted officers can walk up to you and say, "We don't like the look of you, leave." And you can't argue because it's trespass to criminal offence. They've rescinded their consent for you to be on their land, and then you have to go. Otherwise, you commit a criminal offence. That's the world that's the UK. That's what we're going to live in. And maybe I'm a bit big-headed about the UK, but I think in terms of historically law, we've had an influence the rest of the world in law. And I think when we start doing this ourselves, it's just going to be open season.
Matt, there's that something interesting as well in London with the North Bank bid group and Holber. What I think a lot of businesses that are involved with those two groups don't have a say themselves, and they're not pushing for any of this. There's a small group of bureaucrats in these organisations that are actually forcing this stuff through and making the decisions. A lot of their membership probably do not know what's going on.
Well, I tell you, Capco are pushing this through, and we've got signatures from 250 businesses, every business in the area, saying we don't want this, and that's their stakeholders, the people they represent, Capco. Can I ask you a favour, guys? I'm going to bugger off for 2 seconds. I'm going to come back. Can I ask Mike, who's hopefully watching this, when I come back in a couple of minutes, we should tie this up. Can I take the screen? I've just got a couple of things to say to everybody here. I'll be back in 2 seconds.
Okay. Yes, I agree. Well, Matt's away. I had one really strong thing to say. Yeah, I'll do that. The guy that was interviewed that lives in Iceland, Matt interviewed him, and he only did an hour, and it was a good hour. Do you remember who it was?
You talking about Norway, Frodo?
No, fucking Frodo. I just spoke to him about. I was in the green room, and it was so good to see him again after so many years. No,
that was Frodo.
Matt interviewed a guy that lives in Iceland that's from somewhere else, but he's been very successful. He's been in Iceland for 10 years, and after 5 years, he got about 5 people, and they started to do shows in Europe and all that stuff. And he only lasted an hour, and I thoroughly enjoyed that guy. But Matt, who's the guy that lives in Iceland that you interviewed that only did an hour?
You're talking about Lee Nelson.
Lee Nelson.
He only had an hour to interview, but he was great. Very interesting person to interview.
That's what I was just saying to my 2 colleagues while you were away having a wank there.
Every single person I've interviewed has been interesting. I've not interviewed one person and not found things interesting about what they've had to say to me. And when I do have the screen myself, I will say a little bit about what it's meant to me to do these 100 interviews so far. But I
guy from Iceland,
Lee Nelson. He started in Australia.
Nelson. Right, yes. Now that rings a bell. But can I just say, from my own personal point of view, when you were interviewing him and he lasted an hour, and I don't want to stress this point, but I do have a stutter, and I've gone through.
Are you saying your interview was 4 hours because you stutter?
No, it wasn't, because I said to you twice, I want to finish, and you kept on talking, you gibbering. Anyway, what was I saying there? Tangents are going off in my head. What was I talking about there?
I'll say this now, just to put your mind at rest, your interview is one of the most watched.
The guy from Iceland, right. Because I've got a stutter, I'll just explain. If I was put through a test, I had to listen to the same sentence 10 times.
I'll be back in 1 minute.
Was they altered? Is he going for a wank as well after you? Anyway, so what they did was they had the 10 sentences on tape, but they changed certain sections by milliseconds, as in they slowed it down, they speeded it up, they paused it by milliseconds, and it's only people with stutters who can pick that up. So when I hear politicians speak I'm on it within milliseconds how they speak. But the guy from Iceland, Nils, forget your name, man, but respect, because on your voice pattern, you spoke for an hour, but there was 3 words you said faster, with passion and more energy. And those words were street, street, street. And straight away, I don't think I've met you. Perhaps I have. If I have, I apologize, but I don't. But I'm thinking, I've never met you. But the way, halfway through our interview, talk, your pauses were good, you weren't a politician, it was great. But when you went, oh yeah, but cabaret, going on stage, and then you went street, your voice pattern completely changed. And I appreciated that. And I have never seen your show, but I can tell one thing from hearing how you speak. You've got a strong show. You can go onto a pitch that people won't be able to work, but you'll be able to do it. The shows don't start to 7:30, but if it's 6:30, you would be able to do a show. You know as well as I do that if you step on a stage and you're on for half an hour and you kick ass, it is absolutely great. But from the 3 words, how you said them, I also know that when you're on the street and you're doing a show and people are walking home, shopping, going to see a church, going to the cathedral, and you stop them and they didn't know that was going to happen. And then after 45 minutes, they've got their shopping bags down, they were going somewhere, they were going to meet someone, and you stop them for 45 minutes and it goes off. It is such a strong feeling. It's better than a stage show because you've stopped shoppers and all this shit. You might be getting hassled by cops. And then you hat it and you've pulled it off. Street. And I appreciated that. Of all the interviews, street. And that was the attitude that I have. And I can also say that Tony has. And it's the only other person that I can put in that league. Sorry, but I appreciated that. Have I just
I completely understand.
Yeah. Sorry. I apologize, but I want to finish now, okay?
Well, wanting to finish is a start, Graham.
Yes.
There's 12 steps.
Fuck you,
take
Tony.
to finish.
Livingspace. Holy fuck it. Hey, I've never had sex with you and I have never sucked milk from your breasts. So don't dare you call me Graham.
I've got a bad memory, Graham. I can't remember whether you have.
Oh, listen, when you suck a dick, that was completely different, okay?
I think that we've maybe exhausted some of the effective
I think we have.
We will have a chat in a room after. Let's have a group chat after the show, and we can. Oh, the notebook's coming out. Fair enough.
Please.
Since this is probably the last time I'm going to be on your show, I'd like to say something. Since Graham's got his book out. Oh, Jesus.
And it's very important.
But
I think
street performers from all around the world. Graham, shut up now.
Matt, I think it's time for you to sum up, mate.
Well,
I just hang on 1 second.
Oh my God, they've muted Graham.
If you watch, let's say, people who work in the industry on TV, in theaters, all around the world, we do more shows, if not the same amount. We work, we're professional. We chose this, we chose to be on the street. A lot of us can move off the street if we want. Some of us can't, but a lot of us can. And we don't because we chose the street. And we don't get the opportunity to be on Graham Norton or Parkinson or any of these interview shows. We don't get to tell our story where we could sit there in one of those chairs on one of those major shows and wow an audience just as much as any of the people. You know, we could go on any chat show and tell our stories, and because we're as professional and we're as experienced in the industry as any other major artist. And so this is a good thing to get these stories down, to have these chats, to look at, you know, look at in depth into what the life of this sub-genre of artists are, that chose a different format, basically pretty much based on their love of performing and their love of equity and their love of money. And so I think it's you know,
no one got into street performance because they thought it was a route to getting a Ferrari.
No, exactly. No, that was a joke. But you know, so I mean, you know, let's not be ignorant. Some people do, you know, because there is a way, there is a path, and it's an easy path to that, and it's something that.
I think people get into it because they enjoy it, and then they learn that there is a way of making a huge.
Maybe that's a debate for another time. Time.
Let's keep this in 3 hours. So
but anyway, that's what I just like to say. That it's a good thing that we get that.
Mate, thank you. Really appreciate that.
I told you Tony should have finished. Jesus Christ. Okay then, we've got 30 seconds. I told you, I said to you, I would like Tony to finish, but oh no, you had your own way. What I was going to say before Tony said that really wicked thing was basically, because it's the 100th thing, there was a couple of names that I would like to say. And as far as females go, it's Cash, Venus, which is Micah, Tamara, Petra Massey, Sharon, Tony Smith, Kit, and Amy Saunders. And as far as guys goes, it would be Lee Ross and Les Bob. I'm sorry, Les, but I've got to put Roland Swigger, Pepe Ludo, Tony Livingspace, Frank Olivia, Pete Mitrovic, Gilly from Israel. Then you've got Andre Vincent, Mike Dada, Sean Ronnie, the Flying Dutchman. And when Don Ferry was being interviewed, he said in just passing, oh, we were at the bottom of James Street and we were side pitching with Dr. Stewart and Silver. And during that interview, to hear my name in the same sentence as Dr. Stewart, and you had Zip and Zap, Dr. Stewart and myself, side pitching at the bottom of James Street. I think that's quite a good lineup. I'm not. What do you think?
I agree, and I'll be honest with you. It's been wonderful over this last year. These 100 interviews, hearing the interconnectivity of the world.
Yeah,
I'd love to talk more, and I could talk all night with you. And I think after this is over, we can get in a video chat, all of us, and have a bit more of a conversation in private. But we do have to finish.
I don't think it should be private because.
Let him wrap it up, Silver. Matt, the guy obviously wants to wrap it up. Let him wrap it up.
Nothing should be private because everyone that's been in this conversation can have access. I don't think that 4 of us should have a private chat. There's nothing.
We're going to do that, Graham. We're going to do that with everybody. Everyone's going to have access, and Matt's going to wrap it up now because it's a freaking TV show.
Sorry, you always tell me what to do on the internet, Tony. I always pay attention. Right? Do I just close down now?
You can.
No, just stay there.
Yeah, just close down in an emotional sense rather than a technological sense. So, first of all, Silver, Anthony, thank you. Big thank you. Big thank you to Dynamite. Thank you, Mike, for running it and doing the tech stuff. You've been amazing. You've worked really hard all the way through the night. I only asked to do it a few days ago. You were brilliant. Melvin, thank you. Thank you for coming on and taking the interview and taking my position, because if you didn't know, on Saturday I had kidney failure and I had to be rushed to hospital, and they got out of hospital late yesterday. I've been on a drip for days and I'm not very well, and I don't think I could have dealt with the whole interview myself. So much appreciated, you guys took over, and this has been probably the most difficult technically and in terms of, you know, as an interviewer, craft-wise interview to do. So you guys have done an amazing job to hold it together. It's quite funny. Yesterday and the day before, we spent hours planning the order of the people that were going to go on and thinking, right, this person had this history and this person had this history, and we'll put them together because they'll talk about this. We'll put these together because they'll talk about this. We developed questions for every sequence of every person, and we thought, right, what we'll do is we'll get a green room. Everyone can be sat in the green room chatting, and then we'll pick them off one by one and bring them in. It sounded so wonderful. It sounded so easy. And of course, the second it goes to go live and do everything, every bit of technology left us. Everything went wrong. And it was really nice to see two of my best friends take apart my year-long legacy with one video. You did great, guys. Thanks. There's been, on the interviews now, over 200 hours. It's probably reaching up to about 250, maybe even 300 hours of interviews done by people. I started this at the beginning of lockdown because I didn't know what to do with myself. I love street performance. I always wanted to learn more about street performance, understand the craft better, and understand what it was, how the culture developed, how it became a creative force. Who was creative? Why was this person creative? Where did this joke come from? Where did this concept come from? Why did people start doing this? Because sometimes people start doing things for a completely different reason than it ends up appearing to be 30 years down the line when it's used in a different context. And these interviews have taught me so much, you know, taught me so much. Talking with Lee Ross and hearing him develop work and how he sometimes took other people's stuff and developed and made his own, because I'd heard Lee being the most creative, incredible person ever, and I tortured myself for not being able to have these, you know, brilliant ideas off the bat. And so to hear that it's a human thing to take little pieces and to develop it and flesh it out and make it your own was a real growing experience for me. Talking to David Shiner was fascinating. He's passionate, interesting guy. So many of the interviews I've taken personally so much from. It's been the greatest performance crash course I could have possibly had. You know, every week I've spoken to one or two, or at some points 3 people who have been, you know, luminaries in our field. I only hope that at least you guys as an audience have taken half as much away from this as I have. Because if you have, then this has been something that's incredibly valuable for you. And I listened to Brian earlier on. It was nice to be a viewer of the show for once. And he said he was looking forward to the next 1,000 interviews. And I am too. I'm hoping that soon, next year, around about the same time, we'll have the next 200th party, and then we'll do that every year, and it'll follow on. It'll become a staple that we will develop a living history archive which will hold for generations the information of our world and who we are, or perhaps if things become draconian, who we were. So I don't have much more to say really, apart from everybody, thank you again for watching. Thank you for everyone who's been interviewed. Thank you for everyone who's helped, everyone who's shared. Thank you to all the patrons that have put in. Thank you to everyone who put in the PayPal throughout the year. You've all helped. Everybody who's watched, thank you for taking part and engaging in this. If you didn't, then this would be quite a cold, dead collection of stories without your enjoyment of it. So I'm going to close up and say thank you, everybody. I drink to the future, to busking, to art, street art, and to everyone's health, including my own. I'll catch you later, everybody. Much love. Mwah.